we're when we go like live, let me know, and I'll start my.
Hey Chumpy, welcome to the stream. I am finally unmuted, and I am, today, I'm just going to be doing a chatting stream, for now, with, my friend Zenon here. And, Zenon, I unmuted you so you can, introduce yourself.
Hey, you guys! I'm super excited to be here. I am Xenon. You can call me Z. And I just really wanted to have this opportunity to have some cool conversations. So, I hope people out there have, what if you guys have like thoughts or stuff or whatever, let us know. Tell us we're wrong. Cancel us. I invited.
Huh?
Am I coming through?
Yeah, you're coming through. I was letting you do your intro.
No, no, it's all good. No, I'm just doing the slight, just telling everyone that I want people to actually call us on our bullshit. Like if
Yeah,
we
yeah,
say anything that people disagree with, call us on it.
yeah. I get that. Uh, Not me though. Don't call me on my bullshit because chances are, unless it's like something serious. If it's just something pedantic, don't bother. Do not do not bother. Oh, technically, no, I don't care.
Fair, fair.
Yeah. Where do I put this? This is a good place for that. But yeah. Uh, I got on. Well, it's not really an offer. It was just that Zenon pitched an idea. She was like, "Oh, it would be
Yeah,
really cool if we were to do this sort of thing on." Got to bump up the
yeah,
desktop audio. I do have to bump up the desktop audio. Yeah. But yeah, Zenon pitched this to me as an idea for like a stream, just us chatting and talking about VTuber culture and otaku culture and stuff like that. Just trying to shit around some ideas, really. Nothing like serious, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, partially because like we agree on a lot of things that I think
Oh yeah,
are
yeah,
to
yeah,
some extent not super common opinions necessarily,
yeah,
like across the VTubing scene.
yeah,
And there are a few things that I think could be discussed more, but not like super seriously, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah,
I don't know, there's like this weird balance between people who take themselves really fucking seriously
yeah. Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you're not actually saying anything, right? And like I don't know, there's just like opinion, like a lot of people in the scene are either really young, they don't really have a whole lot of knowledge about either international issues or about the history of otaku culture, or
Oh
like
yeah.
I don't know, there's a lot of things people don't really have a whole lot of knowledge about. And
Yeah, they're like
maybe
they're either really like young, like actual age
yeah.
young, or they're just very young to anything that has to do with VTubing and any of the like adjacent stuff like that surrounds VTubing kind of inherently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like sometimes, I don't know, it just makes me feel like super old when people say things like, oh, 5 years ago, like back in the Stone Age or whatever. And I'm like, come on, people.
Oh yeah.
This culture is so much older than that. Like
Oh yeah.
I just learned recently that apparently there's like an influx of people who just kind of got into both VTubing and otaku culture during COVID. So
Yeah.
like they have this extremely truncated view of what the culture is. And I think that
Right,
that is
right.
to the disservice of the proliferation of the culture.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because when you actually look at like what did pop off during that period, there's no there's it's really a weird reason for it. There's no like there must be some kind of weird reason for it because like most of the stuff that did pop off is was also heavily like influenced by like other elements of otaku culture.
Yeah.
So like it's like what yeah, you know, sometimes you're just wondering what's going on.
What would you say is like are the necessary and sufficient elements required for otaku culture? My God, I can't speak words.
I think I think like at least for otaku culture itself, it's really it
Mm,
is a little difficult to define because it's a word that's used very differently depending on the context because it's a Japanese word, of course it is.
yeah.
Uh, but I think like just fandom. It is fandom at the end of the day,
Mm,
but it's usually a sort of driven fandom. It's not a sort of passive fandom, and it's not a sort of like consumerist fandom entirely. It's like in the West, a lot of fandom is just buying merch and posting pictures, but in Japan, a lot of the fandom is creating secondary works and spinning off from those secondary works into your own works. Like that's a
mm.
really big part of otaku culture, and it's kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
the
yeah.
driving force behind like the actual elements of the culture.
Yeah, right. So like traditionally, just for a very long time in Japan, which is where I happen to live,
Yeah,
there's been a huge insistence, not insistence, but there's a big part of contemporary culture. and traditional culture that's based on like hobbies, right? So you
Yeah,
have your what Albert Einstein would have called like your vocation, the thing you get paid to do, and your avocation, right? Which is like your calling in life or things that you enjoy doing.
yeah,
And you do the things that you're really into and you do them well, right? You try to master them, you try to get good at them, right? The
yeah,
enjoyment
yeah,
is like giving yourself over to this hobby. And otaku culture is kind of was born in that context, right? Where people really got into that hobby, right? You have your waifus and husbandos that you're really into. You may really love a particular style. You may love a particular artist or creator. Like it becomes a part of your identity, right? In a very important way. And we have this, of course, in the West too. It isn't
yeah,
completely
yeah,
absent, right? But I think the difference is like the way it is recognized by society, and there's like
yeah.
a like a bunch of history to it and stuff.
Which
But
I
like,
mean, otaku culture itself hasn't been particularly treated well by Japanese society either. That's like a really common misconception I see, like
mm,
weebs online, like and people that are even defending the culture do, is they're like, oh, this is
hmm
Japanese culture. No, like if you actually read about the history of otaku culture, you would realize that it's kind of the opposite. It's a counterculture, really.
yeah, absolutely, it is a counterculture, and
It's a
like,
positive
uh,
counterculture though. Like most countercultures are just like fuck those other guys, but then like and then that's like the driving force behind it. But the fuck those other guys is really just like the secondary element of otaku culture.
yeah, I mean, it's part of the weird thing about hookup culture today is that it's kind of aging, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
because there are more, like millennials basically, um,
yeah,
than like there's just a lot of people who are
yeah.
like 40 years old and they've been, doing their otaku thing since I don't know, maybe the mid 80s or whatever, since they were doing it on floppy disks.
Oh yeah. Well,
And,
that's like that's more Gen X, but yeah,
yeah, I guess so, yeah. And like a lot of young people don't have the time for it, or they might be into something else besides like uh anime manga in particular. But before I moved here, so full disclosure, I've lived in Asia for most of my adult life.
Oh, okay.
But before Japan, I lived in China, and so
Yeah,
between the two countries, I spent my entire adult life basically here in Asia. Before I came to Japan in particular, people told me, like you don't want to mention your otaku stuff to people. People are going to judge you for it. It's going to be like this huge thing,
yeah,
and that was that harmed me. Like that was bad advice. It was just not true. I did
yeah,
find that
yeah,
like people were excited to talk to me about anything that I was into.
yeah,
And even if that is something that they don't know anything about, if I like, can discuss my favorite manga or my favorite anime or my favorite games or whatever in this very passionate, deep way,
mm-hmm.
people were really excited to hear about it. And like
Hmm.
I've been able to make a lot of friends that way. And I wish I had known that sooner and I was less shy about that before I arrived. Like I'm a huge figure collector. I have over 100
Oh,
figures
oh,
and
nice.
yeah, like a shit ton of figures. And when people come over, they don't treat me like, look at this fucking weird nerd geek, right? They think it's cool.
Mm.
I have like a bunch of Pokemon figures, like little like gotchas, and I have a game where like you're not allowed to go to the bathroom until you find every Pikachu, and
Oh
people
my
think that's
god.
cool. It's interactive, right? It's actually fun. I've never received any sort of judgment for. I have like fucking 18 plus dojin lying around. Nobody has
Uh-huh.
ever said
Yeah.
anything. Nobody ever has ever judged me for it. I'm still fucking cool. Like it has not cost me any friends. So I will say that like it is kind of like if you are passionate about anything, you could be a train otaku, you could be like about sushi or whatever the fuck your thing is. It commands respect if you demonstrate you actually really care about that thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely good. It's good that that's like a culture there.
Yeah.
Uh because like if you like, that's something that's like should be natural. It's like, well,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I actually do love this thing. It's something I really enjoy. So it's amazing that like I
Yeah.
don't know. It seems like there's a lot of people, at least in the Western side, like you have a lot of circles where they like talk about something a lot, but they clearly
Yeah.
don't actually know much about it.
Oh, that's like my next video essay is like I'm
Yeah.
going specifically into that topic, like how the
Oh,
nerd
yeah.
paradigm in the West has shifted from like the passionate, person who knows everything about, which comic
Yeah.
episode did this character first debut in, and who was the author of that comic, and like that kind of like hyper specific autistic knowledge.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like it has been replaced with the sort of the the Gramscian critic, basically the person
Right.
who is constantly trying to find the feet of clay out of their heroes, right? Where can I deconstruct this? Where can I find where the flaws in this are?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And those two cultures are like they're locking horns right now,
Oh yeah.
because I understand why that's happening. I have some sympathy for people on both sides, but I'm an old school nerd. I'm
Yeah.
old as shit. I've been around for a long time. Like I've
Yeah.
watched, like for me, nerddom is about really loving the thing that you love. And
Yeah.
if you really like it, that should be you should have a respectful relationship to that thing,
Oh yeah.
that is less predicated on finding its flaws and finding why people shouldn't like it or whatever. You should be unashamed to love what you love. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Of course, like there's an element to it to where both sides of that are like extremely fucking annoying because you've always had those people in the fandoms that would like try to like pop quiz drill you on like super hyper specific trivia, and I'm not here sitting here
Bro,
like memorizing for a
bro.
test when I'm enjoying something. Uh, but then you do get the opposite side where it's very obvious that the people who are talking about like a specific character or a specific series has never actually touched that series, and you're like, what are you
Oh my
doing,
God.
bro?
Bruv, that is,
Yeah.
and like, what do you do about it? Because there are anti-tubers now, there's anti-talkers, there's like people who
Yeah.
like just review game, like they don't ever play a game, they just go watch it on Twitch for like, 20 hours or whatever,
Yeah.
and they feel like they've actually played the game. No, bitch, you haven't. You haven't played the game. You actually don't know what it's like.
Which even
You may
that's
have seen art
generous
on
for a
it,
lot of these people.
right? That is very fucking true. There's a whole genre. Like I really
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
risk of like outing myself, I really like shonen manga and
Oh
anime
yeah.
because I grew up with it, right? And
Occasionally I
like
do enjoy it, yeah.
I know that like saying that in the wrong circles, people are going to be like, tourists, get the fuck out. No, but I've watched like, a lot of fucking anime,
They
but
can be
I have
fun.
a soft spot.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot in my heart for shonen. And like there's a whole genre on TikTok, Shorts, YouTube of people who just like rehash fights from
Oh
shonen. So like they'll
no.
just like sort of narrate how these fights go. And honestly, many of them are extremely entertaining. I love watching them.
Oh
But for me,
really?
it wouldn't do anything for me if I didn't already know what was going to happen, right? I watch it to see the storyteller recreate it in a funny way.
Oh
But if
yeah.
your only exposure to the source material is these like
Yeah.
meme editors, then you don't
Oh.
actually know the content. You don't actually know the source material.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That reminds me
Um,
of somebody who was like in an argument on Twitter about Fate, about a character in Fate,
mm,
and in the Fate series. I don't know which specific country because I haven't touched that
mm,
whole series as not as much as I could have. Uh,
mm.
but they were making an argument about a certain oh, about a certain character, and what they used as evidence was a fucking dojin, like an arrow manga
Oh
dojin.
my
And I'm like, what are you
no.
doing, bro?
Oh my God. Just illiterate. Just absolutely fucking illiterate. I find that like in the Western like deep otaku sphere, and there's different areas of it. Like there are people who like are just really into visual novels. There are people who are just really into specific manga or anime or games or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, they tend to have like this encyclopedic knowledge of what they love, and then they will be really annoying and like test you. Like if you're really a fan, how do you tell me who was the I don't know, I can't even think of an example, but like that does happen. But at the same time, I kind of get why, right? Like there are a lot of people who for some reason they like the aesthetic of anime, but they don't
Oh yeah,
actually
yeah,
want to
yeah.
watch it, you know? And like,
Yeah.
bitch, why? Watch it. It's good.
I, well, I think
Where's
that
the
kind of
problem?
gets into like people want to get into anime, but anime isn't like made to be main. Well, it's made to be a little more mainstream, but like there's like this really deep chain that fundamentally is not. It's like it's not trying to be made to be consumed by everybody. So a lot
Yeah.
of people just like who especially people who aren't used to it and don't understand it very well, they struggle to actually get into it because they're afraid because they're not
Yeah.
used to it.
Yeah. So like that's what how old were you when you started like kind of getting into this culture? Like were you like really young?
I guess it depends on how you define it. Again, uh, because like whenever I was growing up, I used to watch Toonami. Like I used to watch like Cowboy Bebop, and I used to
Yeah,
watch.
dude.
And whenever I like graduated high school, that's where I started getting back into it and started watching more, and I started binge watching more and getting into stuff that was not on Toonami. Uh, which I think that's also something worth thinking about. Like, I think Toonami did a lot of good in
Yeah.
trying to introduce stuff that was non Saturday morning cartoon shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, they did kind of like limit themselves a little bit, so people didn't have like a fully rounded grasp of anime, which you can't really blame Toonami for because they
I
have a
don't. I
demographic.
don't. Exactly. I
And
don't
hell, they
think
they
it's
aired whenever like everything moved to Adult Swim, they were like airing FLCL, which you would think would be the ultimate
yeah.
like crash course starter anime for actual otaku culture, but I don't know. I don't know what happened
I
there.
I think yeah, I think that's actually a really good that's something really good to point out. I found I don't know if you know FD Signifier. He just talks a lot about like masculinity and gender issues and stuff. And he said that what was one of the most transformative anime to him. And he's not like a super
Oh
huge
yeah, oh
otaku.
yeah,
He's like I don't know, for someone I don't know, I assume you're probably similar to me. If someone has watched fewer than 50 anime, then like it's
yeah,
hard for me to like really consider them like a mega otaku, right? But like
yeah.
he felt that it was very pivotal for him as growing up as a young man to see that represented, to see like masculine puberty, to see like what it's like to like
Vulnerability is a big one. I'd say.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
most shonen don't really do a full like depth view, like a full depth view of vulnerability, but
mm,
like other genres definitely do, and like FLCL definitely hit that. FLCL is more of a sign-in when you think about it.
yeah. I mean, like I call it. I say that it's made by Trigger, although technically
It's
it was
basically made by Trigger, yeah.
it's basically I call it a Trigger anime because it is
Yeah.
the Trigger team, even though Trigger didn't quite exist yet.
And
And
now
like
it's like
it
been footballed over to like I think Studio A1.
oh, is A1 doing it now? Really?
I'm not
That's hard.
entirely
That's
sure. I'd have to look
that
it
would
up
be
because I
sad.
know they've made a bunch of I know they've made a bunch of sequels and nobody's given a shit about
No, the
those.
sequels, I refuse. I just refuse to acknowledge them. Like I just,
I think
how
eventually
are they
I'll
making
do a
money?
rewatch of FLCL and I'm gonna definitely check out the sequels. Uh, I guess the difficult part is to figure out if I want to watch sub or dubbed because the dubbed of FLCL is one of those rare instances where they actually did.
It's quite good. It's quite good.
If you actually look up documentaries on that, like the
I have.
documentary on that, it is uh amazing how much actual effort, which shows that what actually needs to be done for like translating anime.
Bruh. Have you ever seen the dub of the BBC dub of Urusei Yatsura?
I
If you haven't,
haven't, but I heard it's pretty
it is
funny.
it is amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah.
Like it, but I won't go down that sort of tangent. But
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm not much of a because like when I was when I was growing up with anime, like there wasn't very much that was dubbed, right? Like
Oh
if you
yeah.
were gonna be getting into, like, I'm like really revealing my age here, but like
Mhm.
I started watching Toonami when it first existed, like when Toonami was
Oh,
like first started in 1997
when it was
was I was
Moltar.
exactly with Moltar. I was like the target demographic there. And like, of course, there were a handful of anime that existed at that time that was dubbed, but if you really, really loved what you were watching and you really wanted more of it, you
Yeah.
had to go with fan subs. And so I've been, consuming fan subs for a very, very long time. So I never really got into much of dub culture. And so because of that, it's been hard for me to like really sympathize with dub watchers much because I
Oh
haven't
yeah,
seen that many dubs, to be honest.
yeah,
But Fully Cooley has an amazing fucking dub.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there are a few other dubs that like I really. This is a random silly story, but like okay, so IRL, I
Mm-hmm.
live with my partner who is Chinese Japanese, right?
Oh, yeah,
So uh, born in China, grew up in Japan, and I've expounded upon the dubs that I love, and my partner is very like much bigger otaku than me. Has seen basically every anime that has ever been made, basically.
yeah.
And like yeah, is alert like doesn't speak English, so like
Oh yeah.
when when I show him, dubs and stuff, he's like, "What is this garbage? What is this all like? This is all. Why would you subject yourself to this?" I'm
Oh
like, "It's
yeah.
because you don't understand it. Like, it's not that bad." And he'll like nitpick on why he thinks this intonation or whatever is, and he's like ruined
Oh,
some of my favorite dubs, and I'm protecting the Fooly Cooly dub. I can never let him hear it because I
oh
can't let him
yeah.
ruin it for me.
Honestly, he would probably like the dub, considering the fact that like the Japanese staff for Fully Cooley, actually did make a comment on the English dub and was like, "Oh
Really,
wait, yeah, this is a lot better. What the fuck?
it's so it like it,
How did they capture the characters better than the Japanese VAs on this one?"
that and Cowboy Bebop, and I really
Yeah,
can't think of any
Panty and
others.
Stocking.
Though I haven't seen the dub of Penny and Stocking actually, but I'm sure it's I need to check it out actually. They're about to make a season two, so
It's
and
pretty
what I like
interesting how like two out of those is by Studio Gainax. It's really interesting that
that's a that's
somehow
a
they
good
got
ass
the good
point.
ass fucking dubs.
They have that fucking sauce, man. They drop it. They
Oh
fucking
my
they get on there.
my buddy
Um,
Chumpo, he said that FF14 actually has a better dub, supposedly.
Wait, like the online game?
Final Fantasy 14. Yeah.
Is it 14 online?
Yeah, yeah, it is online. It's the MMO that's like still getting updates.
Okay,
And it has a
this
dub, I
is
guess.
do MMOs have is that a thing? Like
Emma,
today I learned.
especially FF14 is very story heavy. There's a lot of cutscenes and stuff. It's very lore and story heavy.
知らなかった。
Yeah,
なるほど. That's dope. That's cool.
yeah.
That's really cool. Um, Shit, what was I gonna say? Something about dubs and anime.
Hmm.
But I basically, if you're an English speaker
Yeah,
out there, read like consuming anime, either subbed or dubbed,
yeah.
but with like English subtitles or whatever, we get like they do us dirty, man, a lot.
Oh, yeah.
They do us dirty so often, man. Like they just, I don't. Okay, let me not say that. I have a lot of friends who work in localization, and they most of them who are
Oh,
game localizers. Some
oh,
are manga localizers. Pretty most of them are in the R18 category. So like
yeah.
one of my
Oh,
good
well,
friends
that's
works, basically translating like
yeah,
eroge, right?
yeah,
And so sometimes I'll bring to them like translations from things that I've seen on anime or whatnot. And I'll be like, I don't, I don't really
yeah.
fuck with this translation. How do you
I
feel
don't
about
think
it?
this is right. I don't think this is
Like
what was the intent here.
I did work, for a few years as a Chinese to English translator, but I've never worked as
Yeah,
a Japanese to English translator. So I've been a translator,
yeah,
but like, it's a slightly different situation. And so I have like, I'll have opinions and I'll ask people, like, I feel like this isn't great. How would you translate it? And actually, I think I would like to do a kind of like a game show basically, where I get
yeah.
a bunch of localizers and I'll give them like some
Um,
raw material, see how they translate it, give them like different like amounts of time
yeah, that would be
and like
interesting.
see how they vary and things like that. Yeah.
I think that's
I
difficult because you have to make sure that there's enough context for the line, like before and after, to actually make sense. Because that's like a big problem in
Yeah.
that is a big problem in some
Oh
productions
yeah.
when it comes to
Oh,
translating stuff.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because sometimes there'll be like really common, like there'll be like specialized language to the series,
Yeah,
and then like the person translating episode one may differ from the person translating episode five. That is not often the case, but sometimes it is, and
yeah,
they'll just use different, terminology. And
yep,
particularly, this is like a huge issue in isekai because there are more there how do I put this? There are more like races and
yeah,
jobs and stuff
more
that have
specialized
yeah,
terminology, basically.
exactly. And like, how do you
Yeah.
translate that, right? Like, what's the difference between a madoshi and a mahotsukai and
Oh,
a
you see
mazoku
this? You this
and
is you see this in scanlations a lot, actually. That like this is a
mhm,
good example where it's really visible. Where if you have different groups scanlating, you will see them change the romanization. You will see them change uh, the interpretation of certain words to be more literal. Uh,
yeah.
they'll change the names around because like L's and R's and B's and R's and X's and
Yeah.
all kinds of shit.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I often don't envy people who have to like translate entertainment media, because
Yeah.
it's hard. It's actually very difficult. And
And
people who do it
That's
well,
a big thing with the Western fandom is
yeah.
like they have a big beef with localizers usually.
They they do. And
Like,
at the risk of like getting in trouble, I hope that nobody like excommunicates me from the localizer sphere. There
yeah,
are some localizers that are kind of famous for being like kind of hated,
yeah.
like what's her name, like Katrina Leonakis. She lives in California, but I know a number of translators here who like find her style of translation, which is much more heavy on like trying to recreate the dialogue
Oh yeah,
for a Western audience. They find that to be distasteful
yeah,
and
yep.
also unnecessarily difficult. Like it's just you're working too hard for how little they pay you.
Well, I think
Just it's
part of it is that
simple
a lot of
words.
these people like see themselves as like part of the creative process, and like the
Yeah,
fans absolutely do not want that. It's
yeah.
like, oh, it's my job and it's my creativity, and it's like, no, please just do the thing. This
An
is
ideal localizer should be basically invisible.
yeah,
In most cases, unless you're trying to do like the BBC dub of Urusei Yatsura, right, where they add
right.
in a lot of stuff. It's really fucking funny. But now, because of there's so many different schools of thought in English localization, even people who are relatively invisible are visible for that invisibility. So, for
Yeah.
example, if Jake Young is doing the subs for a show, I will usually notice it because of how
Oh,
excuse me, how close it is to the original language. And
yeah,
often, and like sometimes there'll be things where I'm like, I have no idea how I would say that in English, and he'll do it very elegantly.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that should be in theory, right? Like something that makes you invisible, but
yeah,
it
yeah.
makes I think it makes him stand out among a lot of other localizers.
Right. Like going back to scanlation for a second. I've
Mhm.
seen people like just openly admit that they're doing MTL. Like they'll use screenshots and stuff. They'll use and then they'll use like image recognition, and then they'll have to like clean it up and do all that stuff and dump it into DeepL to get like a good
Oh,
translation. Uh, and they'll be like, "Oh well, sorry, this is kind of sloppy because I used MTL." But like it's readable. It's very
oh
readable,
yeah.
and you can understand it pretty perfectly. And it's just like, oh, was this supposed to be sloppy?
I mean,
Because like at
a
this
lot of
point,
times.
MTL has gotten so good at translating Japanese whenever it has the right context, and whenever the reader like when the translator actually understands that it is MTL and that you will need to like clean it up a little bit and do a little bit of revision, they can do really quick work and they can do really good work, which just brings more into question all of these troubles that are used as excuses for like rewriting anime.
So I have a question for you as a consumer.
Yeah,
What would you so you know how like in uh Japanese creative media there's
yeah,
like this long-standing tradition of having linguistic styles for different character tropes, right? We used to have
yeah,
this in English too, but we largely got rid of it.
right,
It still kind of exists sometimes, but kind of not that much anymore. But in Japan, it's still very much a thing, right?
yeah, yeah.
Generally, if I read a character's line, I know it's like, oh, this is like
Ojo
the
Sama trope.
lollipop fox, or
Yeah,
this character is the whatever. Um, Now, machine translations often don't really keep that in intact.
yeah. I'd
Would
imagine
you
that's
prefer?
difficult.
Yeah, right. Like, what do you even do there? But like, if, for you personally, would you rather? consume a product where those where those differences have been sort of washed out because you can see the characters, you know who they are, or would you rather a localizer who like tries their hand at trying to like
I
even if it's a bit corny, but like
yeah.
try to keep that together.
I think what we're getting in is to like dialects and subdialects,
Mm.
and MTL doesn't handle that very well. No, like it doesn't like to
Yeah,
translate to a dialect. It wants to
yeah,
translate into readable, plain English, which is fine. You know, it makes sense. Uh, you could basically like take that output and like throw it into a dialect converter probably and get like exactly what they said, the exact
yeah,
feeling, because it's kind of predictable. Uh, but at the end of the day, I don't think it actually requires like rewriting a character. Like
yeah,
I think I've seen it done a few times where they just like add flavor to what words they pick. Like instead of
yeah.
using like modern English, they'll use olden English or they'll use fancy English.
Mm,
Like it's less that they're changing the character and changing the translation and more that they're being a little more selective about the flavor of what words they pick, because like ultimately Japanese doesn't have literal translations and you can pick and you can do a
yes,
little bit
yes,
of
yeah.
pickery going on where you're like, oh well, this word fits a little bit better for this character because it's more of an olden English, or it's more of a fancy English, it's more haughty, it's more flavorful, you
Yeah,
know. Like
yeah.
like they actually, most scanlators handle Kansai very well by just making the
Oh
character
yeah.
sound like a fucking bumpkin.
I as a huge like shonen fan, one of my favorite anime of all time is Dragon Ball. All right,
Yeah, yeah.
get your laughs out now. I know,
Well, I
basic,
mean,
but
it's a fun. I've said it before. Like Dragon Ball, like the plot is atrocious, the writing is atrocious by Dragon Ball,
hey, hey,
but
hey, man.
it's a really fucking dumb, fun series where you can just turn your head off and you can just really enjoy fights.
Yeah, and like I do like the characters get older and get married and have children and shit.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah, that's a
um,
unique part of
um,
Dragon Ball.
uh, Goku is a bumpkin, and
Yeah,
like in the English version, he's like this Superman, like
yeah.
which is just not his character, right? Like
To be fair,
he's supposed
it's
to sound like
probably
it's
really really difficult to like extract any kind of like dialect out of Grandma Goku. It's probably extremely difficult to get
so.
that.
For example, he and like Goku and Chi Chi are the only characters who use ora as their personal
Oh
pronoun, right?
yeah,
Everybody else either says watashi, boku, ore, like the normal pronouns, right? But
yeah.
like because Goku and Chi Chi are like from
The
the sticks,
mountains.
like they're
Yeah,
fucking country bumpkin ass motherfuckers, so they use ora, right? And so like as soon as you hear them talking to themselves and then talking to their children, you get that, right? You
yeah,
understand that generational gap, right? Because Gohan goes to school, he learns, he reads, all that kind of good stuff. That is a little bit difficult to sort of put into translation. Um,
oh, I bet.
um, have you watched the Monogatari series?
I have. Yeah.
Right,
Shinobu's
peak.
a
Come on.
very difficult character to translate. I bet.
Exactly, exactly. I was just about to get into specifically Shinobu. So like the way she talks to Araragi, right? She calls him
Yeah,
Omae-sama, right? So the second person pronoun that she uses for him has this juxtaposition in Omae saying that he's beneath her, but
yeah,
Sama saying that he is above her at the same time, right? So
yeah,
you know at once how how she is how she sees him as a contradiction, right?
yeah,
And every sentence she has with him has that mixture because she has that nanoja kind of dialect, which makes
yeah,
her sound like an old lady, and at the same
yeah,
time, very childlike and playful because she doesn't understand things. Like
yeah.
there's a every sentence she speaks is a huge mixture of like these juxtapositions, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful prose, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's. I think I've
but
read something
mm,
about the Japanese voice actor of Shinobu and how the direction
oh
was
really?
very unique for Shinobu, in that they wanted her to have this sort of very olden, very haughty, uptight, proper sort of,
Exactly, right? She's
you know.
childlike and she's mature.
Even
She's
though she's a cute
uptight and she's
character, she has
relaxed, right?
this very specific tone to her. voice and very
That's
specific way of delivering lines that is a contradiction
exactly.
almost.
E- exactly. It's contradictions, it's juxtapositions
Yeah,
that I have. If you put a gun to my head and said reproduce this in English,
yeah.
I would die. I would just die. I have no idea how to do that, right?
I definitely
But
think you would have to look at like older texts of like uh like you basically just have to like study Shakespearean translations from,
right,
you know, like way in the back.
probably, I guess.
And then you'd
Uh,
have to clean it up so it's actually like legible to human beings
yeah,
because like that's the real trick right there is like they're use she would use Olden English, but
yeah.
you can't just slap Olden English on there because it's literally like a headache to read. You would have to mix it with modern English to where it just
Mm.
feels Olden.
Yeah, kind of like Game of Thrones does
Yeah,
something like that, right? Where they
yeah,
have
you
this
would
sort of
want
faux classical English, right?
exactly. Yeah, you would have to basically invent a dialect for Shinobu to make it make
Yeah.
sense because at the end of the day, that's kind of what they probably had to do with the dub, anyways. Or for the
Is there a dub?
Japanese version. No, there's no dub. I meant like the
Oh,
Japanese version. I was
oh yeah,
being
yeah, yeah,
stupid.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, like, I guess what you could do is like first translate it, and then you get like what's his name? Martin, J.R.R. Martin, the author of the Fire and Ice series,
the
just
Game
to
of
go in
Thrones,
there,
yeah.
just go in there and just like rewrite all of her lines. I feel like he could do it. I feel like if we gave it to him, he could make it. He could make it work.
Yeah. I think that would definitely be difficult. You'd have to find examples of that type of style just to get Shinobu to feel right. Uh, which isn't
Yeah,
easy at all.
I love her. She's like one of my top waifus, man. I
Oh
love me some
yeah.
Shinobu. She is
She has a
she's
great
everything.
design, especially in the movies.
Right? Oh my
Oh my
God.
god, the
The
movie
movies
Shinobu.
are coming out again here. They're going to be in theaters again
Yeah,
very
it's like
soon.
they made three movies and now they're just making one movie out of the three
Hmm.
movies, which I don't know if I like that because I don't know, maybe they're like redoing a bunch of stuff, but it kind of just feels like they're going to end up cutting up like the content of the three movies and just cramming it into one movie.
They might. They might. Mostly, I just want to go see. I just want the experience of seeing it in theaters
Oh
because
yeah.
I didn't at the time. So I
It's
just
kind
would
of like
like to be able
Madoka,
to
where
do
you
that.
can either watch the movies, recap movies,
Yeah.
or you can just watch the actual TV series as it aired. Because I don't think there's any like differences where they added anything to the movies. In the first two movies, I mean, the third
Oh,
one's
I don't
an
know.
original.
I actually haven't seen the Madoka movies.
I
I'm
wouldn't
kind of
either.
exposed. I've only seen I've only seen the series, but
Yeah.
the third Madoka movie comes out
Hmm.
very soon, right?
Well, the
Yeah.
third movie's already out. This is the
Oh, oh,
fourth movie.
oh.
The
See, that's
third
how little I
movie's
know about movies.
Rebellion because the first two movies were recap movies.
Oh, and does the third movie like change the ending?
It's a it's no. It's an entirely original sequel to the first two movies, which is
Oh,
recap movies.
I see.
It's
I see.
required
I see.
watching.
Okay. Yes,
Totally
sir.
original.
I will. I will make sure to go and see it. Oh my
It is
God.
totally original, yeah.
Here's a fun fact. Madoka is very, very, very popular
Yeah.
at pachinko parlors. Like,
Oh my
like
god.
every pachinko parlor has the Madoka girls.
Oh my god.
I have no idea why this is. I have this has always been really confusing to me, but it's
Yeah.
like everywhere.
I don't understand that either. I don't know much about pachinko, other than the
Me
fact that
neither,
it's
really.
like the
But
spawn of Satan in terms of IPs. Because everybody gets excited for an announcement, and then the announcement is pachinko.
yeah, and people make I mean like it's just IP is trying to wring money out of 35-year-old men who hate their wives and want to go gamble, basically. Uh, I mean, it is what it is. But it's
Yeah,
just to me which
unfortunately.
IP get really popular at pachinko. You know, it's like Gundam and Madoka, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I guess that's weird, but sure, do
I guess
you?
it's just like, oh, they're big series. That's how it is. They got a lot of original animations in the Madoka pachinko machines that you can't find
What?
anywhere else. Jesus.
What?
So like well,
Today I learned. Today I fucking learned, man.
that's like the gotcha game.
Oh
The gotcha
my,
game has
that's
a ton of
wild,
original transformation sequences that look really good.
dude. That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. It's so good.
Oh yeah, that's right. If you haven't seen the movie, you probably haven't seen Magi Record, the gotcha anime.
I I'm sorry, what? The gotcha anime?
The
What?
the there's a Madoka gotcha game, and then they made an anime based on it.
Damn. Damn.
Yeah, I watched that. Uh,
Okay,
I
dude.
watched the first season of that, and I still have to watch the second one.
That's wild. Coral Summer says that some of them are online, but I'm like 90% sure it's like not all of them.
Oh
So
yeah,
that means that we have to go out and develop a pachinko addiction,
yeah.
so that we can get all of the animations. That's all. That's my takeaway here
Well,
from that.
I guess somebody has to like dump them somehow. Is what it is. Which is
Yeah.
totally technically possible no matter what, but not easy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
But yeah, that's like another issue is like pachinko is the spawn of Satan.
Yeah, that's a. I mean, that is kind of also true. I actually worked with the pachinko company once to make a really shitty game, but we gotta pay bills somehow.
Yeah,
I
I don't
didn't learn
blame you.
anything about pachinko the entire time while I was working with.
It
I hope
seems
that it
pretty
never actually
simple.
had
You
me
just
find it.
drop a ball in and then it fucks you over.
That's what it looks like to me. But I think you have to, there's like skill
Yeah.
involved. You have to make some things happen. I don't fucking know, man. Uh, 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 oh wait. Tell me if you ever see one where Cubase turns into a bow for some reason. Saw an animation like that years ago, and I've never been able to find it since. Bruv,
What a random
bruv,
fucking animation.
dude,
Put that
this
little
sounds like a
bastard to
goddamn
work.
adventure.
Yeah.
This sounds like a fucking adventure, man.
But yeah, that's like original animations that just never see the light of day. Oh, it's fun. And the
I
companies
love it.
never think about that. It's like, what if the fans just want to see these animations after you inevitably just close down the service and they don't really give you an option?
That's a really good point. I guess somebody just has to leak it. And like
Pretty much.
there's not really much of a leak slash piracy culture here in Japan. A lot of people I know don't even know that it's possible to do that. So like
In
it's
yeah,
just not really a
In the
thing.
West is just like this is called preservation.
It is, but it literally is
It does
though.
end up being preservation, which is the best part. Is that like companies can complain all they want, but as long as they keep not preserving their stuff, we will continue to do it. And even if they start preserving their stuff, we'll probably still be doing it.
Oh yeah, we will. We will. We will be
Yeah,
there with bells on.
yeah, uh,
Okay, we're VTubers, right?
yeah.
And
We're
uh
VTubers,
and
totally.
that is what we are. And we like otaku culture. For me,
Yeah,
the two
yeah.
are inextricable. What are
Right,
your
yeah.
feelings about that?
I think it's difficult to really phrase it or like parse it because if you look at the beginning of VTubing, it was already influenced by anime, manga, otaku culture. Uh, but there, and like at the end of the day, VTubing, like whenever you talk about VTubing in a technical sense, all it is taking a like a 2D or 3D character and puppeting it using using software and a webcam or something, right? If that, if not, just having a character behind, like your voice is behind a character, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
this isn't something that is entirely unique to VTubing.
Oh no, no.
Like even before VTubing came out, even before VTubing got big, there were like furries and stuff on the internet that were doing this. There were creators on YouTube that were doing
Mm,
this.
mm, mm, mm.
Uh, like furries had like this like type of puppeting software out. I think it was Luppet. I think Luppet came out way before like VTubing.
Oh my
Uh,
God, we're going into like deep lore here.
and
That's
they
like
would
way
use it to
back in the day.
control models and stuff. Like it was basically just their head tilt, and then they would use like their voice feed to control the mouth and stuff. they didn't call themselves VTubers. They didn't call themselves virtual YouTubers, mostly because they were on
Yeah,
Twitch. They didn't really
yeah,
have any type of like a big thing about it is like furries aren't really people who like to separate themselves from the rest. They usually don't want to make themselves different. So they didn't really use any type of tag to define or signify that they were different.
yeah.
They were just like there. They were just trying to fit in and be with everybody else. But when VTubing came around, it's just like, oh, we have our own little space. You know.
Oh, okay. So,
So when you think about it,
who is we? Who's the we in this context?
I guess VTubers, like the current
Mm,
string of VTubers, uh,
mm,
because like you kind of like trace lineage, and whenever you trace the lineage of like the current under the tag VTubers, you have like Coral said, Kizuna Ai.
yeah.
She was an anime girl. She uh, was strongly based off idol culture and
Yes.
and anime culture and
Yeah.
all the things that go along with it. Otaku culture, basically. Her music is very otaku culture music inspired. It's
Ah,
electronic music. Uh, it's basically music that you would hear coming from like DDR or
yeah.
rhythm game that very otaku friendly, very otaku beloved. You would
Side
have
note,
yeah.
when you visit Tokyo, do you want to go to an idol show? I can
Oh
take you
my
to an idol
god.
show.
Probably
We can
need to
go see
visit
some fucking
Tokyo one day.
we can go see some fucking rad
Idols.
ass
Yeah,
idol
hell
shows.
yeah.
Some of them suck. Some of them are awful. I went to one like 2 weeks ago. It was awful. But
Oh, I bet.
some of them are dope. Some are dope.
You went to the Umarine solo concert, I guess.
No, dude, like here's a random thing about idol shows is you can like buy an idol band to like appear at your work party, at your work gathering. So
Oh,
like I went to like this like basically like a work mixer and they had just purchased an idol band and like they would be like
yeah.
work related stuff interrupted by
That's
idol
terrible. That sounds
song.
fucking awful.
It was I didn't have a good time. Be honest with you, I
I
did
guess
not
it
have a
makes
good
sense.
time.
They need gigs, and I guess that's one way to get gigs. But at the same time, it would be like me like hosting a work event and have a mariachi band in the fucking corner just strumming the shit out of it, you know. But yeah, like that's another thing is like idol culture, you know. Idols
Yeah,
exist. They're fairly popular in anime and manga and games, especially games like mobile
yeah,
games. So you had Kizuna Ai, and she was like she was doing stuff that the West didn't really see a whole lot of from idols, which is like variety stuff. Like
yeah.
most of us know idols as they go up, they go on stage and they sing and dance and they do all that. And they do like concerts. That's what like most of the West thinks of for idols. But the reality is that they usually go on like TV and do like variety shit just so that people get to know their names and faces because they're
Yeah.
trying to be like celebrities. They're trying to be pop idols. Uh, and the way to do that
Yeah.
is to publicly humiliate them on live TV with the wackiest, dumbest shit known to man.
Some of that shit's fun,
It
man.
is fun, yeah.
Some of it's really fun.
But then you have them like with a cockroach and a blowtube trying to fight to
It,
make sure they're not the one that's eating it on live TV.
I mean, like, that's somebody's fetish, though, man. I'm trying not to yuck anybody's yum right now. Somebody is,
That
like,
doesn't make
spanking
it
it while they're
better.
watching
That
that.
doesn't make it better.
Like, oh my God. Oh my
In front of a
God.
live
Like,
studio audience?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
clearly. Fun
uh,
fact, Amazon, like, what's the Amazon streaming service called?
Prime.
Um,
They just call
there
it
we go.
Prime Video.
Yeah, there we go. Amazon Prime Japan is like, in my experience, maybe it's just I'm a terrible hentai, but like 80% of it is just like erotic movies. There's just so
Oh my
much erotic
god.
stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and
It's
like
not like
who?
outright, it's not like explicit outright porn. It's like just
Yeah, it's
erotic
not
stuff.
porn. Yeah, it's like the equivalent of like ecchi anime, like just ecchi dramas,
Is it?
you know?
Oh, okay. So it's actual content, and it's not just like grab your photo shoot
Yeah, yeah,
videos
yeah,
the whole time.
yeah. Yeah, no,
That
no,
would be
no.
awkward.
It's like weird fetish shit. It's like, like the
Oh.
princess of barbarians must go and destroy
Oh, that
her
sounds creepy.
enemies. And like it's a lot of it's really, really entertaining. And a lot of it, not a lot, but like a decent portion comes from Taiwan because they have
Yeah.
an ecchi drama culture as well.
Yeah.
So that like I don't know, I find that shit super entertaining. I should do like reviews of this, so people out in the West
Oh,
can go
yeah.
and
That
like
would be
find
funny.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, that's like another thing is like ecchi culture is very different in
Yes.
Japan. It's seen differently and it's understood very differently. That's like an annoying part of the discussion, ultimately.
Do you personally think that VTubers have a responsibility to be tolerant of aspects of either otaku culture or furry culture or any of the other progenitor cultures that are a part of modern VTubing?
Like I said, I think a difficult part of that, like you mentioned furry culture, but it really isn't a progenitor because of
Mm.
the lineage. Like if you actually trace back the lineage, you don't really find that connection. Uh, but like when it comes to otaku culture, it's very much there. It's very much there in terms of the community. Uh, and it is difficult. I think. I guess I can't say they have a responsibility to be tolerant of it because like that's really difficult to define and like map out.
Mm.
But you would be smart to be tolerant of it.
Why?
Because if you're like vocally against it, people tend to get very pissed off about that. It's like going into a bar and you start screaming about like drinking beer. They're going to be pissed off.
I can't believe this bar has beer in it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
I
and
mean,
I guess
it's
it's like difficult because like online spaces aren't the same thing as a physical bar, but at the end
yeah.
of the day, it gets treated about the same. Like ultimately, if somebody just says that they don't want to do it and they're not really interested in it, and it's not for them. Like we've had Japanese VTubers who really didn't want a lot of like lewd stuff of them, and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can. But usually, whenever you start like preaching about it and you start
Yeah.
moralizing about it and you start like making accusations towards the people who do it or are not okay with it, they're gonna beat the shit out of you, man.
Yeah, you're about to get like beat up in the comments. That is
Yeah, people are
100%
gonna tell
true.
you to like chill and sit down and maybe think about what you've just done.
Yeah, like my personal opinion about a lot of this is that there is sort of a responsibility toward tolerance. And that doesn't necessarily mean that like you have to tolerate your own model being looted or whatever,
Yeah,
but I do think there is kind of a live and let live aspect. And I think that
yeah,
that is a leftover from otaku culture because that's a really big thing over
yeah,
here
yeah,
is
yeah,
like you do not go into someone else's space and
yeah,
slap the dick out of their mouth. You don't do it, right?
yeah.
Like
And
that
like
is
in the way people treat Twitter makes it a little weird because it's like this is my space and it's not their space really. It's a public
it's
space, but
it
it's
is
also not a
exactly.
public space.
Yeah, right. Like I think that like I mean there's lots of things that I see that I find to be annoying or
Yeah,
less than great, right?
yeah.
But clearly they have an audience. Clearly this
Oh,
person
yeah.
has fans, right?
Which I mean, it's
They
not like
make
you
someone
can't
happy.
you can't like critique like the underlying
Yeah,
elements of something. Like
right.
I think it's good that people like have questioned the whole GFE sort of thing. Like the
What is
girlfriend
that?
experience where like
Oh yeah.
because like at the end of the day it is kind of predatory, like it's
Oh, quite, quite.
but I also think a lot of people misunderstand some similar things that are more rooted in otaku culture than they are in normal streaming culture, which makes it very
Right,
difficult. And then there's
right.
like a
That's true.
line that gets constantly treaded by certain VTubers, which makes it very difficult to
Oh,
figure
yeah.
out.
One thing that I don't think a lot of VTubers have realized is that an aspect of otaku culture is the how do I put this? The breaking down of the barrier between erotic and uh polite society, right? Um,
Oh,
Erotic elements like iconography, actions, etc., right?
yeah,
It's very common to interweave those into like things which are made for a non-erotic setting, right? So like
yeah.
nobody here is like here to watch this for an erotic purpose, right? Nobody's using this as like to masturbate to or whatever.
Oh yeah,
But there
that's
is a
like
reference.
that's like a common criticism I really hate about like certain types of shows that have fan service because it's like
Yeah,
they don't get that it's entertaining in a way that isn't like masturbatory.
exactly, exactly. The idea of the erotic being divorced from
Yeah,
the explicitly sexual, right? That has been a part of Japanese culture for like fucking
yeah,
hundreds of years. It's not going anywhere anytime soon,
right.
but it is a
Yeah.
bit anathema to many Westerners,
It's
right?
not
Who
even that it's entirely like exclusive to Japanese culture because you don't see people walking around a museum in Italy jerking off.
that's true. That's
You know,
true.
you don't see.
Spitting facts.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just
like
like
you don't.
yeah, like eroticism and nudity and there's something other than eroticism that's more like I don't even know how to describe it, elegance, like a sort of
Yeah,
nude elegance. All of these things are being like woven together and wrapped up in otaku culture, and
exactly. It's an aesthetic
puritanism is
appreciation
very
of
against these
eroticism, right?
types of things, and it runs
Very much
very
so.
deep in American culture.
Absolutely. People who find like they think that certain erotic depictions are inherently traumatic or are making light of their own situations as
Oh yeah,
opposed to the erotic as an aesthetic experience. So
yeah,
that's like, like the entire character of Shinobu, for instance,
yeah,
is erotic as aesthetic, right? And then you
yeah,
have otaku iconography that is very irreverent, right? So things which
yeah,
are very serious in the real world, they're bad, we don't like them in the
yeah,
real world, but we make light of them in otaku culture in,
yeah.
for
It's
for other reasons, right?
it's like an issue where people don't realize that fiction is like a step removed from
Yeah.
reality, and then there's like fiction about fiction that's removed again, and then it's like it's iterative filtering. It's filtered in this sort of way, uh this fictional filtering that occurs that you can read about. You can actually read about it in some studies and some anthropologic works on otaku culture,
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
it's not what is shown and what is created is not actually seen this way. It is processed and parsed in a very specific way, and then it's like regurgitated in a specific way.
Yeah,
So what's going
the
on? The raw the raw scenario in like a manga is only part of the element because usually the characters do not react in a realistic way to the scenario. Uh,
yeah.
they react in a very selective way that fits the intentions of the creator, and this is often played with a lot too, where the like an arrow manga, especially like hentai works, as it's more commonly called, uh, they'll have very transgressive, which is probably the word I would use, transgressive elements to the scenario, but it's
Yeah.
not played out as if it's reality because it's not reality. It is instead certain elements, certain aspects, certain dynamics are being fetishized, which is okay. You know, this is just the like standard role play
Yeah.
kink, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's very standard for sexual orientation beyond just gender, because that is at the end of the day part of our orientation is like, you know, what we're into
Yeah, and
and what we enjoy. And that does kind of bleed through beyond just erotic works, but that's kind of the basis for it all is in erotic works. Like, if you
Yeah.
have like a molestation or you have a transgressive element, uh, and the character doesn't react the way you would react, that's because the character isn't you. The character isn't actually a person. It's just it's like an element of a role play. Uh,
And
yeah,
a role play is a really good way of putting it, because
yeah,
people can, I think, conceptualize role play. And also, so to go at it from the opposite angle, right? What some people who will see things and have an immediate visceral discomfort, right? With
yeah.
is they'll say like in the story X is happening. This must be because the creator and the consumer and the idealized consumer
Yeah.
wish they could do X in real life, but they can't, so they do it in fiction, right? This is
Well,
the assumption that
a
they're putting
very interesting element of this is that usually they don't even actually want to do it in reality. Uh,
exactly. That's the people that
because reality is reality and fiction is a very distorted lens that's not trying to actually be reality to begin with.
Precisely. I mean, like, and in many cases,
Yeah,
people understand that, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
when you play FPSs, right? If you're out there playing Call of Duty,
yeah,
it isn't because, gee, I would really like to shoot a bunch of people in real life,
yeah,
but I can't. It's illegal, so I guess I'll make do by playing it in a video game. No, that
yeah,
is not the case, right?
right,
The shooting is an abstraction of an interaction between you and other players
yeah,
that represents things like domination, winning, the colors, the lights,
competitiveness.
the actions, the
Yeah,
reflexes. There are a lot of abstract
yeah,
sort of things that are going on in that interaction. And the
right,
same thing
yeah.
is true for if you like I like slasher films from like the 80s and
Oh
shit.
yeah,
I love that shit. But I can't watch true crime. I can't see like I don't want to see all these videos coming out of Israel and Palestine. I
oh
don't
yeah.
like real war, right?
I've
It
seen
makes
a
me
lot of
very
those videos. You definitely don't want to see them if you don't have the stomach
I'm
for it.
good. I'm good. I'm very good. I'm quite good.
Yeah,
Pass 10 times out of 10. But I like slasher fiction, right?
yeah,
It is
yeah,
not because I want to go and be like a criminal investigator or I want to go and actually commit a crime. Of course not, right? There is an abstraction
yeah,
to the fictional content, right? And in most cases, people are able to understand that.
yeah.
But particularly Westerners and people from like Abrahamic backgrounds, like,
Don't.
they just don't understand that, like, that specifically for sexual things, right? They
Yeah,
assume that if you are sexualizing a thing, it must be because you are actually attracted to that specific thing in real life,
yeah,
but you can't do it. Therefore, you take the next best thing, which is weird, right?
yeah.
Because like
Well,
incest
especially
is
whenever
huge in
like
America, and I don't think
out
most people are
like
trying to go out there and like fuck their
yeah,
brothers, you know?
but like outside of like a very like outside broad basic shallow view, you quickly realize that the thing that's being fetishized is nothing like real life at
Yeah.
all. Uh, but yeah, like I was gonna mention this earlier. One good example of this is Chaco Sensei from Hololive. Chikon, very common fetish
It
thing
is.
in erotic works in Japan, and I guess she has one too. She mentioned that one day she actually ended up like in a train getting groped by some dumb weirdo, and she's like, "Man, this guy fucking sucks."
Yeah, dude.
That's all she
Yeah.
said. I'm sure it was like one of those like uncomfortable experiences, but on stream she was just like, "Well, yeah, this happened, and this guy really fucking sucked at it. It was fucking terrible. What is this fucking idiot doing?"
Yeah, I've been chicaned before, and
Oh yeah,
generally, I mean, like I haven't been chicaned. Like I'm not like a chican expert, but
yeah.
I can't say it's like people take advantage of like really packed trains, and they're awkward about it, and
Oh
it's
my god,
weird, and
yeah.
like it's so it's
I think that's
nasty.
like one thing that's worth talking about, or at least mentioning, is like you hear a lot of like proponents of Japan, like people who
Mhm.
want to like find fault in Japan. They talk about how there's like women specific trains and how Chikan is a problem, and they try to blame anime and manga on it or
Oh my
fetishized
God,
works.
so dumb,
But ultimately,
so dumb.
the problem is that these trains are so packed
They're really
that
packed, yeah.
it's almost inevitable. Like you might
And
accidentally get groped because how the fuck do you're packed like sardines?
And there are people, I mean, if the same kind of situation happened in America, right, where you have like
Yeah,
these extremely packed trains, are you trying to tell me that like
Oh, it would be worse. It
it's
would be
gonna be a bunch
way
of
worse.
gross dudes who are gonna be
Yeah.
out there trying to cop a feel. Are you
Uh,
serious? Of course not, right?
yeah.
It's a crime of opportunity.
It
The
is. It
opportunity is
really
so
is.
abundant, and so it happens,
For
right?
some odd
So
reason,
like,
people cannot understand the concept of a crime of opportunity, and they
yeah,
seem to think that it's like, you know, has to be driven by something external.
culture or some other shit. Like,
Yeah.
not really,
And
Like,
like even
how
then,
can
I'd imagine that like the Qicon problem in Japan is like a billion times less than literally any like other problem in the U.S. or the Western
yeah?
world. And like
I have
Japan, but
I've been
Japan treating the problem because they're so low on crime that they can literally expend resources towards something that's like a billion times less of a problem than the rest of the world. Somehow
oh yeah.
makes it a problem, like signs of a problem, which really sucks because it's like, oh,
Well,
Japan's doing something right. They're trying to
they're addressing this issue,
they're addressing the issue. Thank God, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it is an issue. Like, and the Japanese government admits it's an issue.
And
And
it's going to be an issue wherever there are humans of sufficient number,
yeah,
right? That's just going to be a thing. But
yeah.
I will say this much: I grew up in America. I would not there's like not a city in America where I would walk down the street at 3 in the morning with my
Oh
headphones on,
yeah,
unable to hear the world around me. I would not do that, right? I would never
yeah,
do that pretty much anywhere in America. I do it pretty regularly here in Japan. When I walk to the conveni at 2 in the morning, I am not afraid that any sort of violence is going to come to me.
right,
Partially
yeah,
because I'm foreign and like
yeah,
it's less likely to happen to me. Also, I'm black, so like I think
yeah, yeah.
people
I was about to say
would
you're probably taller than like 90% of the
I
dudes there too, because like they're short.
motherfuckers are short.
What
Motherfuckers are short.
are they gonna
I'm
do?
not as tall as surprisingly a lot of motherfuckers are taller than me. I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
short, but like where I'm at, motherfucker, like there are children taller than me, and I'm like, what are they feeding? Like this is supposed to be a shorter country than this. What are they
oh yeah,
feeding you, motherfuckers? Like, how are you like 175 centimeters and you're in middle school? I need this
oh
explained to
yeah,
me right the fuck now. But also just like I'm not. If me and like any other female friend of mine are around, none of us experience any sort of fear doing anything.
yeah.
And any
Because
sort of
like you
like,
said, where there is problems in Japan, it's like a crime of extreme opportunity,
yeah,
and like
exactly.
they're cowards usually, so it's really awkward anyways.
It's true. It is very true. It is very true.
So
Not
like
that it doesn't happen. It does happen, but
the
it
worst you
isn't
have
as
to deal
frequent.
with in Japan, from what I've like understood and heard, is like if you go to a park late at night, there might be like a flasher.
There are flashers. I found that there were more of them in China than there are here. I definitely got flashed more in China,
Oh
and I was
really?
in Shanghai there, and I'm Tokyo here, so I was in the two biggest cities, right?
Yeah.
But definitely, I found more like I
Which like
found
if you're
more
an
willingness to
artist, if
like
you're like an artist, you're just like, oh, big whoop, good job, buddy. Is it cold or something?
oh my God, that's awful.
Because like if you're like an artist, you've done figure studies where you've stared at nude people for like 100 hours. So like some
Yeah,
dude running up to you in person and like taking off his
they don't
trench
run. They don't
coat.
run. They're just like it's also opportunity. It's like
Yeah.
hey, and then like flash, and then
Hey,
like
yo,
they get scared. Yeah.
Flash. Maybe hit the gym.
Bro, you have a lot. You got a lot to work with. You got a lot to work on. Good luck. Try it
Yeah.
again next year. I'm hoping to see some macros
Yeah, like
of going
flashing
through that for you.
Westerners is a huge mistake when you think about it because like, despite the fact that we're very prudish in culture, like, nudity isn't actually a problem for us, personally. Like, if you
Yeah.
were to, like, if you were to, like, encounter a nude person on the street, you'd just be like, what is this fucking weirdo doing, dude?
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's just not like I don't know. Recently, it's been kind of common for Japanese people to like share videos like online of Americans going fucking crazy, like running out naked in public and shit like that. It's like they
Yeah.
like to laugh at that kind of stuff. Because it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
not really a thing. We do have something called a meltdown though, and that's where the salarymen dudes, they get like incredibly drunk and like pass out, sometimes with their pants around their ankles, like on a park bench. Like that does happen.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, me and a friend of mine, who's also actually a VTuber, so I don't know if I should like tell her story like this. I gotta get her permission to like edit her into this later. But we were hanging out. It was like 2 in the morning. We had
Yeah.
just left a party. We were like drinking and stuff, and like we ran into, and we're looking for this bar. We can't find it, and these like four or five salarymen who are also fucking wasted come out of the elevator, and they take us to this other location, and
Oh,
now we're just a
oh,
new group of drunk motherfuckers at this random bar,
oh yeah.
and
That's a
like
bit scary.
I mean, not really. I've done it a few times. I like picking up strangers because I'm not worried about date. I'm not
Oh
worried that
yeah,
anything bad's going to happen to me. I guess it could,
yeah,
but it's less likely to. There's a lot of people around. It would be hard for something to happen and not be seen. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So we're just all out in the streets being obnoxious. We go to another bar, well, actually an izakaya, and he
Right, right.
does get one of them gets a little bit handsy, and so we have to kind of like ditch out of there. But like that's a relatively rare occurrence. I like I like randomly meeting strangers,
That's
though.
fair.
Be careful because I do have another friend who got scammed out of like about $2,000 doing the exact same thing that I just did.
Oh.
So
Oh
don't
yeah, that's because
be
like
crazy.
I've heard about that before, where like they'll try to get you into specific bars and get you to order a drink, and then the drink is
Yes,
like extremely overpriced.
yes, yes, that happens particularly in Shibuya, Roppongi.
Yeah.
I don't party in those parts of town. Like that ain't me, fam. I don't be
Yeah,
out
it's
there
like
like
a it's
that.
like a
So
racket or something, like a scam that they
yeah,
pull.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you gotta be
my
careful.
friend mentioned how he went to like a festival, music festival. My friend Coral, and like there was a naked lady running around, and that is something extremely common in like America, at least. Is like if you go to like some type of music event, like a big music event, there's probably going to be titties,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean like
and like sporting events too. Like streakers that go like on the field used to be very common, like somewhat common, where they would just
that's
like interrupt a game by like streaking, and it's really hilarious.
bring streaking to Japan. I want more of that here. Come on. Uh I mean there are bars you can go to where there are titties, but like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to spend a bunch of money on like mediocre
Oh
titties.
yeah.
I have my own titties. You know what I mean? Like I want to be in an environment where it's not going to be like,
Yeah, you can just Google
$300.
titties. It's the meme, man. I press boob on Google search, million results.
Oh my God. But sometimes you want like, the depth
To death.
of
Yeah.
titties in real life, right?
Oh yeah.
Um that's why you can actually hide. I've been like wanting to do this, but like it's like I can't. I don't know. It's just an embarrassing thing to like bring up to my friends, but like I for somebody's birthday, I want us to like throw a party, and then like we like
Oh.
there's like a maid service, right? Where you can like hire
Ooh.
like a maid to come over and clean your house naked. Now you can't touch them, of course.
Oh yeah, of
It's just
course,
like
because you'll
there's just
yeah
like naked people walking around cleaning your house, and
yeah.
I'm like, no, don't clean my house. Just serve dishes, serve refreshments. Just
Oh
hang
yeah.
out. That would just be fun. That'd be a fun thing to have,
That would be pretty. I wonder if like yeah, that seems like something that should be totally possible. But
right? Oh, it's a service. It's very much a service, but it's like, how do you bring that up to your friends? Like, how are you like just sitting around like, hey, I was thinking, could
you
we
surprise
like?
them with it, like with a bachelor party or something. That's what
I
you
have
got
a
to
friend who's
do.
getting married soon, so that is
Uh-oh.
very possible.
Yeah. Scheming over here. But yeah, like that's like again, like there's elements of that's like very common in Japan where they just have fun, goofy stuff like that.
Yeah, and also just sexuality stuff is like less of a thing. Like people don't
Yeah.
fetishize virginity. It's not like a, you know,
Which is surprising. Like that used to be like a really big thing in manga. Like remember, like an
that's
Arrow
true. That's
manga
true.
where like every other like fucking like they had to show it for some reason. It was really awkward, really weird, kind of. Uh,
Weird, dude.
like they had to
Eh.
show that the girl was a virgin. And now
Oh
they just don't
God.
give a shit, luckily.
Yeah, yeah. I
Sometimes
think
they're
it's just
still
'cause,
like,
like,
ah, it's my first time, treat me gently. And then it's just like over it. Which I think is great because, like, that
oh,
was like,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely, because average people don't give a shit about that.
yeah,
It's just like a really particular part of the otaku scene. And now that more people consume it, they can be like, okay, now for like normal people who are not,
yeah.
super in this, this specific culture.
Actually, that is the
Um,
topic I wanted to bring up.
oh yes, does all.
That reminds me that, I know we talk a lot about aunties in the U.S. and in the West,
Hmm.
and how like they run. Like usually they run counterculture to otaku culture in the West.
Hmm.
Antis usually do not like mix well, but at least in Japan, it's not like antis are an entirely unheard of thing in otaku culture. Because like what was that? Crazy Shrine Maidens. I can't remember the Japanese name of it right now. Uh,
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
let me see. I'll see if I can find the name of the Japanese name.
Wait, is this a game or a show?
It's a series. Kanagi.
I don't know this.
Kanagi. You've never seen Kanagi? Shit. It's an older series too.
Kannagi.
2008.
Kannagi. Kannagi.
Crazy
見たことない
Shrine Maidens.
な。
You basically have like a goddess or shrine maiden or some
Mm.
shit.
Okay.
Guardian of Earth, and she's a very long-lived loli, naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And the character eventually is revealed in the I guess spoilers. Elends to not be the pure maiden. She had sex
Oh,
before, and holy
I
shit!
yeah, I
This is a
yeah.
very
People got
infamous.
really
This is a
upset.
very infamous
Yeah.
moment in otaku culture where the writer was very harassed. He was not treated very
Yeah, people were
kindly.
destroying. I did hear about this. I did. I did.
He
I
had
didn't know
got
that
a
it was as
lot
serious,
of
but
hate mail, a lot of threats. Uh, so like anti-culture isn't very common in otaku culture, but when it happens, it is very extreme. It is
um,
very extreme.
when we're talking about that kind of hater culture,
Yeah.
uh, it it. I wouldn't say it's rare necessarily because it's just very apparent in certain places. So, for example, in idol culture,
Oh yeah, like
you,
2chan.
you really can't have a boyfriend, right? If
Yeah,
you have a
yeah,
boyfriend or if you have children or whatever, that's very frowned upon.
yeah.
Certain very pure characters, like
Yeah.
who if like even today, if they were to, I don't think something quite as big as Kannagi is very likely, but
Mm.
I could see it. And these character designs are super cute. I'm gonna go watch this like soon. I love their designs. Oh my God, soup's cute. Um, but uh, there is like a specific section of
Otaku
fandom that
culture. Yeah.
expects that out of the content that
Yeah.
they're watching.
Yeah.
Um, those I think it's partially because they're all virgins, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna die virgins,
Yeah.
and that's just they want that for their fictional loves as well.
It's interesting because we were just talking about virginity and how it isn't very coveted in otaku
Yeah,
culture, and now here we are kind of like talking about how it is important, but it's less
there
important
are some
because of
cases.
a religious reason, of
Yeah.
like a pure purity reason, and more because, well, it is kind of because of that, but more because of like a fear by the fans of being compared, because that is usually a very big element of like a harder, more harsh, extreme, intense otaku culture. Uh, isolation is like a root of that is being compared, and it tends to like ruin people. So
You
I
know,
guess I can understand that to a degree.
I
It's
re
not good, but
I want some more male otaku friends. The only
yeah,
male otaku I know is my partner, and like every other otaku I know is female, and so it's hard for me to like to really understand like
yeah,
how Japanese men who are really into anime stuff,
yeah. But those
um,
motherfuckers don't go outside.
they don't go outside.
They
They
don't go
don't. But like,
outside.
I want to be your friend. Come outside. Come out. Like, what do I
I
have
wonder
to?
if they have like meetup groups. Like if they would organize those. Like
I will fucking make a dakimakura. Come outside. You can touch it. I'll just leave like a trail of dakimakuras and
it
like trap one.
is
Like
very
we are
amazing how
friends
like
now.
Dokis are a very big merch in Japan, but they're not that big
Oh
in the
yeah, they're everywhere.
US.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Like
Yeah.
if most otaku shops have dakis, and
They're very popular in at cons, but like you never really hear about Dokis in the West, like in terms of
I
people owning them.
yeah, I think people are probably just ashamed to admit it. But like I want a daki. I don't own one, but I'd like to have one
I
just because I
have
think it'd
like
be
a
a cool one,
giant pillow, and I just don't have any Dakimakura for it. And I don't really
right?
want one because it's nice to have the giant pillow, but like it feels awkward. Like I don't
Well,
know,
if I had a daki, I probably wouldn't daki it. Like I probably
yeah,
wouldn't be out there actually hugging it. It would just be like a centerpiece. Like I have a lot of stuffed animals that I keep around my
Oh,
apartment,
yeah.
and I'd probably just put that with them. But it's gonna take up a lot of space, and my apartment isn't that big,
Yeah.
and like my living room is like a an otaku museum. Like it's just like
Oh,
just
yeah.
shit everywhere. I need to do like a room tour video at some
Oh,
point.
that would be cool. Yeah. I would do that, but my shit's all fucked up. That's always funny when jacked people have donkeys.
Right? Oh, like what's that dude, Monet?
Yeah, Monet is fucking hilarious, man.
Right? Like man. Oh my God. He could,
Bro's working it.
yeah, and he's put in the work to like his Japanese is pretty decent, you know? Like I
Yeah,
think if he were to show up here, he could like,
yeah.
he could
You do
put some
better
shit
than
together.
most.
He absolutely would. But
Yeah.
like ever since the tourist gates, the floodgates have burst open, like
Oh, yeah.
there is a there's way too many tourists here now. It's kind of rough. Like I live close to Akihabara actually,
Yeah,
and like I just go there for random shit, and like it's just there's so many fucking tourists now. So many fucking tourists.
I bet.
Here's a pro tip. Okay, so as a figure collector and just a merch collector in general, I have a lot of merch.
Yeah.
Don't buy shit from the first place you go in Akihabara because the price since the gates have opened and they've let tourists back in, shit's like three times as expensive as
Yeah,
it used
I've
to be.
heard that, like, if you want to buy, like, anything in Japan, definitely avoid, like, those hot spots
Yeah,
for actually
absolutely.
purchasing things because, like, it's just not, it's not a good price. Uh,
I need to like start a business where I like buy shit
retro game,
for
well,
shit
actually, that
discount.
exists. There's a couple sites where you can do that, like, from
Oh
Yahoo
shit.
Auctions and shits, and it's usually, like, a very
Yeah.
good deal. Uh,
Mm, mm,
but
mm,
yeah, like
mm.
you could, you personally, you could probably go to like the retro game stores in Japan, just buy the
Yeah.
shit up and then like resell it for easy money.
I probably could, to be honest. I
Because
feel
those
like
are
they're
very
so cheap.
popular, like especially now that retro game collecting is getting into a bigger thing and modding is getting a
Really?
bigger thing. Uh, Retro games very popular.
Ooh.
Retro games in the US very expensive. Retro games in Japan very cheap.
They're a little expensive, but they're not like I mean
Oh
to
no,
me
they're
they're
like
expensive, you know.
there's places like in Japan where they're just dirt fucking cheap.
To an American maybe, man, like that shit's like I get yeah, comparatively. I mean like some of it is like stupid cheap. Like if you go to
Yeah,
like there's a place called Nakano Broadway. A lot of those places are dead now, but that's where, you know, you would go to find the underground stuff, things which are a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit, you know, they're doable, they're cheaper.
Yeah,
Um I mean, I gotta get my hustle game together. Can't start like
definitely, definitely.
get
The
my
big
hustle
one is
game down.
usually like the only thing that I've noticed that's like really expensive from the videos I've seen are like niche accessories.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like main stuff that like is just like the consoles themselves and the games, like most of the games are very cheap.
Yeah. I guess it's not super bad. Like if I like places like Super Potato, for instance.
Yeah,
You've probably seen that online.
I think I've seen it once.
Actually, yeah, actually have a friend who just arrived, like a friend from college,
Yeah.
who just arrived by plane like 10 minutes ago. He's in the airport right now, and I will go and retrieve him after the stream. But he's like a really big retro gamer, particularly like fighting games.
Yeah.
And I've made like a whole itinerary, and we're gonna go traveling
Oh,
for the next couple of days.
yeah. Yeah, you
Picking up a
mentioned that
bunch of
you had like a big thing planned.
yeah. We're gonna go traveling across like this
Yeah.
part, it's just this region, and just we hit up a bunch of arcades, go to a bunch of like sort of spots where people who are really into the fighting game community meet up and like you know try to challenge somebody at Street Fighter 3 or whatever. Like just gonna try to have a little bit of otaku time. I should film some of it. I should put some of it online. That seems like a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. Because like, you know, any type of travel vlog usually does really good.
Right? And I'm like, you know, like the trash taste guys are here and like they're all right. I
Yeah.
don't have any like uh, particular feelings about them. But I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I could do that.
Definitely,
Like,
definitely. I think it's cool to do. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but a few VTubers, a few Hololive VTubers have actually done travel vlogs, and they've like edited their character into it sometimes, and it's really
oh
fun.
shit. Oh
It's
shit.
really fun. Uh,
Uh I I think that's a good idea.
Kiara has done some stuff, and I know Laplace does it for her 3D streams. She usually has like a
I
little,
love Laplace. I
yeah,
love
her
her.
3D, like you probably know what I'm talking about then, where she like
Yeah.
edits in like her character and stuff for 3D
Yeah.
streams, and it's really fun.
It is. Oh my God. Okay. I gotta get inspired, you know. I like going to arcades.
Yeah,
I'm not particularly good at it, but I like going to them. And I know where like a lot of the really big ones are. There's like a
yeah,
really, really huge one out on West Tokyo. And my intention is to go there, but like I can't, I'm not really win shit. I'm awful at this. So I gotta
yeah.
find someone who's actually good at like UFO catchers and shit.
There's a dude on YouTube who does like UFO catcher, like those arcade. He does videos just
Yeah.
on like gaming the ever loving shit out of those. He gets kicked out of the stores. He doesn't do anything like damaging or harmful.
Technically, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
but he
yeah.
definitely robs them blind.
Oh my God, that's
Oh
so
yeah, that
dope,
reminds me.
man.
Have you ever? I know you've heard of the store. Daiso.
Yeah, I go to Daiso all the
Daiso in
time.
Japan. Uh, did you know that they actually have stores of Daiso in America?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I need to visit
Okay.
them, but like, it's so amazing that we're getting those stores because those are
Oh,
literally like,
Daiso's it's a way of life here.
yeah.
It's a super, yeah.
I've watched videos of people who do like terrarium, not terrariums, but dioramas and stuff, and they literally will do Daiso dioramas and terrariums where
That
they.
does not surprise me at all. That doesn't
And
surprise
I
me at
would
all. That
love
sounds
to
dope.
have one close to me just so I can do that.
Are you in a large city?
No, I'm not.
Are you close to a large city?
Absolutely not. But like it is kind of difficult because like the Daisos here are in like New York or on
Yeah,
the
yeah, I'd
West
imagine.
Coast. So, but they're expanding.
I mean, I have to imagine there's probably like in most city capitals, I'm gonna like I could see it expanding. Daiso's kind of taken over a lot of Asia. Like when I was in the Philippines like
Yeah.
a month ago, and Daisos were like everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
That's like
okay,
another aspect of otaku culture that I don't think a lot of people talk about is like the crafts. Holy shit, the
yeah,
crafts. Gunpla has enabled so much. Like it's
hmm
never just that they make a gunpla, they'll make a whole diorama. They'll make a
yeah.
scene and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful to see.
It's, yeah, and like I am not as gifted with my hands in crafting, but
Yeah.
I like seeing people get good. I like seeing.
It's all about like breaking it down and just practicing, unfortunately. You know.
Oh my God, that sounds hard.
It is hard. It's like you have to like want to do it and you have to start small. Like the best thing you can do is find those little kits for kids and then just start small
Oh man, oh man. I just
and
noticed that
simple.
Coral said that they want to become Jack and then get a Daki.
For the me,
So
yeah.
uh, Coral, you gotta like take like pictures every month, right? Like on your
Yeah.
journey to getting jacked. Uh, like
Yeah. Coral already
yeah.
looks like he's like a Swedish prince, like a Nordic prince. So that would be pretty hilarious.
Oh my God, do it, do it,
He'll look like a
do it! Oh
fucking
my God,
Viking or something by the time he's done.
bruh. Bruh, bruh, come
Yeah.
on. You'll have all the 2D bitches, man. They will all belong to you.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, that's like something I just love seeing is like the crafts and the creativity of
Craft
it.
culture.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
fun to see. Even when it's not like directly like anime related.
yeah.
Super. Yeah, this will be up as a VOD. I'll be re-uploading it to my YouTube, and Zeno will also be editing it. I don't know if
Yeah.
I mentioned that before, but she'll be editing it into a more cohesive thing instead of us just rambling.
Yeah.
Probably it'll make a couple of videos, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're already
Uh,
at like an hour and a half, so we'll
yeah.
have a couple
And we've
different
barely
conversations.
touched on the main topic.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm following along. I'm just out
Yeah,
here
yeah, yeah.
being sillies,
It's fun.
being
It's
real
fun this way.
silly. Yeah, exactly.
Not it makes the work a lot harder though, doesn't
I
it?
mean, yeah, but it will
Yeah.
come as it comes. I have a lot of like little clips I can already tell I'm going to be doing from this stream of
Yeah.
like that are going to be like 10 to 30 seconds long. That I'm just
Oh
going
yeah.
to
Good TikTok
spam
clips.
Twitter with. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like that's like a big thing. Is just creating an otaku culture is so beautiful.
It
Uh,
is, and like belonging to it is great, you know?
and I
Like,
kind of hate how simplistic it is in the West in terms of like fandom
mm,
culture. Usually,
mm.
like there's a lot of fan artists, but you don't really get a bunch of fan comics nearly as much.
Yeah, you
And I
don't, and
think
like,
that's like the launching stone for otaku culture in every country. We're starting to
do
see it
people still learn
more.
Klingon?
Klingon, maybe, probably. I bet there is.
It's like a Klingon culture.
Oh Lord, because I know they have like Star Trek. That's another thing that like Star Trek has like Star Wars, Star Trek, sci-fi. They all have their own like conventions and events, which is really
Yeah,
cool. But it really sucks how like anime conventions are slowly being consumed by literally everything else, which we didn't really ask
that
for.
sucks, dude.
Because like
That sucks.
a big conversation that I kicked off on Twitter is about how cartoonists who are just making cartoons and all they've ever made is cartoons and all they've ever cared about is cartoons are slowly like working their way into anime conventions because the con runners are kind of greedy. They want to book and pay for these speakers that are kind of their friends in their circle. So they're getting them in there uh because they want to like buff out events too. Naturally, they want to increase prices and they want to make it look like it's justifiable because oh look at all these guest speakers we've brought in,
Uh,
but like nobody asked for these people to begin with. Oh,
oh my
but
God.
the English VA, the English VA is here to talk about the character that they didn't really do anything with other than voice
Right,
poorly.
right. Uh,
uh,
some VAs I'm sure are great, you know, but to be fair though, I did once go to a, all right, this is very much exposing my age here, but I
yeah.
went to a con like many years ago and I met the VA of Spike Spiegel, like the whole
Ooh,
cast basically
yeah,
of Cowboy Bebop. And the VA the con was relatively small, and so like I got to talk to them, you know, individually.
oh yeah,
And I was like, you guys, how are you guys like so fucking good at this shit? Like y'all are like the the go-to dub, right? Like
yeah,
nobody here voluntarily watches Cowboy Bebop in Japanese, right?
yeah.
And they were
Steve Blum.
yes, Steve Blum and like I don't remember the other fucking motherfuckers'
Yeah,
names, but like they it was small enough and intimate enough that they were
yeah,
still, you know, humbled by that. They were still touched by that.
yeah.
And I liked that atmosphere. That was great, you know, but I'm sure that's
Steve
basically
Blum's
dead,
always
you
been
know.
pretty cool in terms of like the English VA sphere because like
Mm.
he does a lot of work for Toonami. He's the voice of Tom, you know,
Yeah,
the main
yeah.
robot. He's always been
Wait,
that for a long
is Tom
time.
still around?
He is.
What?
Toonami like did a reboot during April Fools like almost a decade ago now actually.
Are you fucking kidding me?
So
And
like for a long
Luthor
time
was around
Toonami
for
was
like not even
gone.
2 years.
Yeah, for a long time Toonami was just gone, and then one night during April Fools they started their usual April Fools thing, and then cut out to that and was like, nope, psych, we brought Toonami back. And then like
Holy shit.
Demarco did all he could to like actually get it rebooted, and it worked.
What
Like
do you happen to, I mean, I you're under the age of 65, so I'm sure you don't have a
yeah.
television. Do you happen to know what's on Toonami these days?
Oh, I think like Doctor Stone amazingly. Doctor Stone is
Really?
somehow on Toonami. JoJo is on Toonami.
What?
Hero Academia. I think Black Clover is. Let me check.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, damn.
So like,
Okay.
I think the most amazing thing is Doctor Stone because despite the fact that it is a shonen series, it is very
Summer is
it is very not
It's a
you know
non-battle anime, you know.
uh,
They do have some fights. I didn't see the anime, but I did read the manga, and I love it. I have a little display of like I have a little figure section with Senku, and Kohaku, and the little lolly girl. What's her name? Shit. with the little melon on her head.
Suiko, I
Yeah,
think.
Suika, of course. Right, she's a melon on her head, so her name is Suika, of course. So yeah, I've got a little display with the three of them. I rather enjoyed that series.
It is a
Um,
fun series. I've seen like a lot of like the really mini figures, like the little gotcha. In the West, instead of having gachapon, we just like kind of like have little mystery bags and mystery boxes because I wish we
yeah,
had the gachapon because that would be fun.
you,
But instead, we
gotcha's a
just
way of life.
it is. But like we don't have coins large enough. We don't have coins large enough for that to
Oh,
begin with. So we'd either
yeah, I
have
didn't really think
the
about that. Yeah,
yeah.
you need, yeah, yeah, that's true.
It would be really fun if we had dollar operated ones, just because I would love to
Right?
be able to just do have gotcha. Uh, Unfortunately, like most grab bags and mystery boxes in the U.S. are like $7 to $8, which is
Oh my
like
God.
bullshit. Like
That's
every
really
time I
stupid,
see them, I'm like, this should be like $1 or $2,
right?
and they're never $1 or $2.
Fucking money grabbing.
Yeah,
Damn it.
It's Bandai Namco
Well, yeah,
actually.
well, I don't want to. I don't want to be recorded saying my
Yeah,
actual feelings. But
I don't blame you.
if I speak, I am in trouble
They're
because
greedy at times.
yeah, right. Um, I
Holy
have a
shit!
mild
They aired
addiction
Lupin
to
the Third.
really
They aired
like the
Made
most
in
recent one or the
Abyss.
old one.
Who let
Wait,
them
it
air Made in Abyss
on Toonami?
on Toonami?
Wait, can they do that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at the recently aired, and I see Made in Abyss.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
That um
that should be allowed.
uh
That shouldn't be
I
allowed.
yeah, I don't know how that passed the censors. I'm not sure how they pulled that,
Oh, they
but
probably had to censor
okay,
the shit out of it, and that probably still wasn't enough.
right? Like, what did they do? Is there a dub of Mayonnaise?
There has to be if it airs on Toonami. That's kind of the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, that's a good ass point. Well, shit.
Yeah.
Well, shit.
Holy. Yeah. But yeah, Gachapon is like one of those things I hope comes to the US more proper because, like, I want to
We'll be
see
broke
more of
though.
those imported. It's so fun. Like, I want to see Rement actually release their stuff in the US properly. I want to be able to go to a store and just pick up a Rement furniture set.
Man, uh, there was a recently a Rama one half gotcha series, and I went
Oh,
to three different gotcha stores to complete the collection, and
nice.
I have it completed now. I was very fortunate. I only got one repeat. So I have my little Ranma series. I have a couple of other gotcha series that they get you, man. They'll have
Mm-hmm.
three of them at this store, and then you have to go across town to go to the other store to get the rest of them. And God,
Oh,
a mild addiction, but
yeah.
they're cheap, so it's fun. It's fine.
Yeah, that's exactly why I don't get into the mystery bags that much, is because they're not
Mm.
cheap.
Yeah,
They're $7 a piece, and I'm not paying $7 for a tiny little figure.
exactly for something that's
I can go on AliExpress or Temu and get a bigger figure that's a knockoff that looks just as good as the actual figure for that price.
Rev, Rev. Uh, I, there's a whole deep fucking rabbit hole to get into, when it comes to
Yeah,
Chinese wares. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
purchasing things from China because it's for one, it's
It's
going to be
just
cheap.
cheaper. Yeah.
And it's just there's just so much variety, right? Um, because I really like real figures. Some Chinese figures, it's a bit of a hit or miss. Some of them are going to be kind of ass.
Yep,
But
of
here in
course.
Japan, figures aren't that expensive, so I usually just get the local Japanese version. But sometimes I'll wind up. I have a Chinese kanna figure, and it's beautiful, but it's
Oh.
not balanced well, so it'll fall
Yeah.
sometimes. Which I'm like, come on, man.
I have that problem
Uh,
with some of the noodle toppers that I have. Like one of the noodle
like
toppers was really delicate to place. Those are what I
I'm
usually
like,
get because I don't like standing figures that much.
really?
I like when they're sitting.
Okay. Okay. But then their legs will be off the side of the building, off the side of the thing sometimes. Like some of those figures,
Yeah,
that are sitting, their legs hang. So
yeah,
that could be a
that is
little
true.
bit.
I actually have a little mini chair. I have a chair that I set one of them on. I need to get like a bench for them.
Yeah, I need to
But
get
it is
better at
something
like
I kind of
figure
like. I
placement.
like whenever like if I get a figure, if I get figures, what I really want to do is I just want to set up a nice little like sub scene, like not a full blown like diorama, but just like a scene, you know.
Yeah, right. Like an actual scene from the show. I have a
Not
bunch of
necessarily
mono.
from the show, just like a scene that makes it feel more organic.
I have four Monogatari figures. I
Ooh.
don't have Sanjo Kahara, and I don't
Oh.
have there are like two other chicks from the show I don't have, but I have most of them together. And
Yeah.
the version of Hanekawa I have is I have the black Hanekawa, like her in her cat form, kind of like
Oh.
lurking like away from the rest of the girls. I
Yeah.
kind of want to do something a bit more creative with that, but I'm not
Yeah.
super great at this.
Eventually it'll come to you.
Yeah, well, or I'll just like get someone with vision and like rearrange all of my figures. Go. My living room is your canvas.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Ugh. I'm still.
How are you tired? It's like almost 2 a.m. my time.
Oh, I'm
Come
still
on.
waking up. Like it takes a while for me to wake up. But yeah, I guess that's like another big thing is like figures. Like there's a
Yeah.
very wide variety of figures, and they're usually not very shy or reserved. You
Oh,
see people
yeah.
complain about that a lot on Twitter too. Is like,
They
why
do.
isn't this character more covered up? Why isn't this
Oh my
specific
God.
figure more made for everybody else? And it's because like
Bitch,
it's a niche
shut your bitch
third
ass
party
up.
figure that's more about just being for fans.
I have a Gargura figure, and
Yeah,
her panties are visible in the figure,
that's
and
kind of
that's
amazing
like
because they're not even visible on her 3D model.
right. So I was like, how do they decide what color her panties are going to be in this figure?
They
Like that's a
probably do have like a proper ref sheet, and they probably
uh,
just don't show it on the 3D model.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
they have
probably.
like different versions of the ref sheet. They have versions of the ref sheets that are like public and ones that aren't. You know?
Yeah, almost certainly. I want more VTubers to get
Panties.
figures, and specifically, I want more indie VTubers. Like I want like Shondo to get a figure.
That's
Like that would be
really
so
tricky
fucking
because
cool,
like
right?
of all the like management work that needs to be done for that. Which is
Yes.
ultimately a big
However,
reason why so many VTubers do go corporate, even if they're fairly big on their own, is because of the management support is very unmatched. Like
oh
you,
yeah, absolutely. It's
nobody,
night and day, night and
nobody
day.
wants to handle all the back leg work it takes to do merchandise and releases and collabs and all that bullshit. You know?
There is, however, a huge Dojin figure community in Japan and also in
Yeah,
China and like a lot of parts of Asia. And I think like that is an industry waiting to be set up. Like independent VTubers matching with Dojin figure
yeah.
makers, and like
I guess at
they'll
that
make
point the bigger issue is like the language barrier because
yeah,
you're definitely not going to really see those in the West.
oh yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Uh, what you could do is you could probably find like a 3D print company. Well, I guess like you. I guess
But
it
I
wouldn't
think
be.
that's the thing, right? You
Yeah,
have like it's gonna require like the Dojin figure creator to like
yeah,
create the wherever
Mm.
the 3D file, and then some other like print on demand service
yeah.
to create the figure itself. But
Which
I think
isn't
it's
easy
quite
because we
doable.
don't really have a good way to like print on demand injection molded figures.
But
Uh,
there's actually so at Tokyo Game Show this year, I met a guy who's like his company does print on demand figures. Like they're literally these little tiny, basically for like Warhammer. They're like basically
yeah,
Warhammer figures.
yeah.
But he like offers that service to games that allow like custom avatar creation.
Oh, that's pretty
So
neat.
that so that if you create your own avatar within the game, you can print out
Get a
as
figure of
as
it. Yeah.
few as one figure or as many as however many you want. And so one of my client companies is actually working with them. Like they hired them to do that for their game. So
That's a
if that
nice idea.
exists, right, that's gotta be oh my God, you gotta a bot in the channel. uh, in the text. Um, but
I
if that service exists, I think that the logical progression is for VTubers.
I don't want to deal with that right now. Usually I just ignore them,
Yeah,
but yeah,
just deal with the bye.
I think more companies will have to like reach out to VTubers first because like
Yeah,
VTubers are usually very not aware of
yeah, yeah,
that type of thing. But I definitely think I've seen resin figures get a lot better in terms of printing.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
So I think it'll come down to something like that. Uh, of course, that's like really toxic, and you don't want to do it in your own house.
Right,
But
right.
I think as printing resolution, like 3D printing with filament, isn't there yet. But
Oh,
with resin, it is a little bit better. But like it does cost money. Like I guess what we really need is just like injection molded, but we have to get like injection molded that's like a way to like make the molds easily and quickly, which isn't really there yet.
yeah. I mean, that's just like a direction that has to be developed, and I think that whatever indie, what do you call like indie agency,
Yeah,
the first indie agency that gets connected to the 3D printing world and like the Dojin figure world,
yeah.
that's gonna be I think it's gonna be a game changer because you could the merch opportunities are endless basically. If you can 3D print
There's
shit, I mean like
there's
it's you could do whatever you want.
there's some companies that are already doing merch for indie VTubers. Like we've
Hmm.
seen like I think it's like Cuddly Octopus or something.
Yeah, yeah.
They do a lot of merch for them.
I have a keychain from Rune Benura, and I
Oh
have
yeah.
a Shondo keychain as well. But the Shondo merch is from some British company. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Which I mean a British company doing merch for Shondo is something.
Right? You know, I deliberately went out of my way to spend way too much money on these things just to support
Yeah, that makes
these
sense.
VTubers. You know,
I
like
get that.
they get a lot of hate. I want them to know that they have a little fan in Tokyo. You know, like why
Well,
not?
yeah, I guess. I mean, I think we've seen a very nice, fun little example of that actually playing out recently, and
Oh,
with I forgot the name of the VTuber. She was getting a lot of hate for a model change into a
oh
lowly
yeah.
VTuber.
Oh yeah, the one with
Uh,
the
yeah,
really small one. Rev says Des did a video on her.
yeah. There was a bunch of call out posts and people trying to be like, "Oh, this is so gross, so terrible," and they, how can anybody support this? And she got like 4 or 5K followers during that time,
Yeah,
and they were just like,
right.
"Oh, well, it's just people telling us or that they're just doing it out of spite." But that's 5K people
Honey.
spiting you, and
Yeah,
you
and
only
honey,
got like 600 likes at most
I
out of
just
your,
went to her
yeah,
profile page. She almost doubled her
yeah.
her following.
Yeah, that was
Almost
pretty much like the VTuber community telling those indie VTubers to shut the fuck up.
yeah. Shut your bitch ass up.
That's like
Like that
yeah, I
was
guess that like gets into one of those topics we were wanting to talk about, which is like
yeah,
Western anti-culture, and then how it gets pretty like intensely rejected. It really
yeah,
does.
it
You
does.
have these people who like come into the culture and they think that because they also do it, that they get a say in it, but they really don't.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
like,
they
yeah,
try, they do try.
they have a
And
growing clique. It's definitely a growing clique that isn't getting smaller, but
oh yeah, it's not by far,
it's
yeah.
very obvious that they don't actually have as much influence as they wish they did. And
Yeah,
even if they did, it wouldn't really matter because the demand is growing as well. The demand for these VTubers are still growing, even with all
exactly.
the hate. It's it's definitely one of
Because
those
that
things.
culture has been a part of
Yeah,
VTubing culture since its inception. It's not going to go
right,
anywhere,
right.
right? But there are
Because
people who,
yeah,
come into the culture a little bit later who just aren't really otaku. They're not fans of
yeah,
anime. They may have watched a few, but they're not really like into otaku culture, like talking about it.
right.
And so
Very
their tolerance
casual.
for certain they're very casual, right? That's not a judgment, right? I'm not saying this to like
Yeah, it's just,
say that they're,
yeah.
but it's just a fact, right? And so like their lack of knowledge and their lack of tolerance for these certain tropes makes certain things very uncomfortable for them. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
fine. You can be
And they
uncomfortable
don't
with that if you
listen.
want.
They really don't.
They don't get it. And so like today, right?
Yeah.
Also something from Honey. Like I saw this from her account.
Yeah.
Kevin X, if you know that guy, like who makes like the VTuber assets, like
Yeah.
he gets in trouble every few months for doing assets, just constantly.
Yeah.
But this one, he's like, I mean, like my entire TL was covered in hate for him.
Oh, really?
Because he did, yeah, like a lot. Like when you get on Twitter in a minute,
Oh,
you'll
because of
probably
the
see
buzzer? The buzzer?
because
I
of the
saw
because of the
that
buzzer.
buzzer a couple days ago whenever he first
It's
released it.
right. It was like 10 days ago. But
Yeah.
like now, a bunch of aunties have found it, and their approach to this is to say this is a sacred topic because it refers in
Good
real
luck.
life.
What's funny about that is that he made that buzzer because of
Because of Ui-chan.
the Lolicami Requiem
Yeah,
uh
exactly.
video, and that same buzzer is heavily featured. Well, not the exact same buzzer, but the buzzer is featured heavily in the video.
Yeah,
It's not.
exactly.
It's not like it's shy of like she. It's always usually part of that sub trope.
Yeah, of
The
the
yeah
Mesugaki. Yeah, yeah.
yeah
Mesugakis often have that little whistle thing.
yeah
And on his asset, it has like the crying emoji and the correction emoji, and
yeah. It's more
people
animated
think
and
it's
specific.
anime, right?
Yeah
It's taking an icon, right, that is
yeah
very common in the trope, and putting it into a lighthearted, irreverent,
yeah
funny space, right?
right
And some people felt very offended by that. And like,
yeah
I understand why someone would be uncomfortable seeing it. I get it. The response, of course, is to block and move on. Right?
yeah
That's the only mature
yeah.
thing to do. But you have a lot of people who are filled with righteous indignation, and they're
Oh
saying,
yeah,
if you
zealots.
think this is funny, then you are a bad person and you should feel bad, bad, bad,
Yeah,
bad. Just
it's
feel
very
bad.
annoying. Uh, but yeah, like you said, he made that like because it's a joke. It's a very commonly understood like trope accessory, I guess you would call it.
Yeah,
And like it's not it's you
yeah.
know like we understand the difference between fictional characters and reality, so we understand that it's just funny joke.
And that difference includes, like when you see the whistle, right? I
Hmm.
don't really have any particular attachment to it, but it's just an icon. It is
Yeah,
it's an icon the same way that like, the old school phone symbol is an icon.
yeah.
Nobody, younger than the age of 20 has ever used a phone that looks like that. But
Oh
it
God.
represents it's an abstract, representation. And a lot of VTubers are using it. I've seen like many
Yeah,
VTubers that I follow have used that asset because it's free, and so and it's funny, it's cute. It references the Lolly Requiem song, which is also cute.
yeah.
But a lot of people are quite upset, and I
Not a
think that kind of
surprise.
right. I should have seen that coming, honestly, but whatever. But I think it kind of stems from like this sort of clash between people who entered VTubing because they like the aesthetics, but they don't know the history, right? Like they're very,
Yeah,
very against so-called weeb culture. They don't really like, you know, uh, certain tropes in anime. They don't like fan service. They
yeah,
don't
yeah,
really allergic to jiggly titties. And
yeah,
like that's quite right. And like
yeah.
that's fine. If that happens to be who you are, if you don't like it. But I think really like you should reflect on that, right? You should think about this. Like,
Yeah,
am I helping anyone right now? Am I saving any victims, right? Is
right.
anyone
Yeah,
coming, is anyone improved by my anger? If this is just a me issue, if it's only the fact that I feel uncomfortable, then
yeah.
maybe I should remove myself from this situation,
Well, I
which
think
is
the
what
problem is that
we've
instead
always
of
done,
doing
right?
that, instead of like considering maybe they might be in the minority, or they might be, or even if it doesn't matter, they don't ever consider does it matter if I'm in the minority or majority of this, because they want to be validated in their feelings. They post on Twitter about how angry they are, how everybody else needs to conform to them, and then they get validated through likes. So people will like it and share it because they agree with them, and then they're like, "Yeah, see, this does need to go away," but it's not going to go away
It's not
because
going anywhere.
otaku culture does not give a shit
It
what the
doesn't. Nothing.
mainstream says to
Totally
begin
irrelevant.
with.
Totally irrelevant. I recently bought
So that's
a
like
Mari
another,
Kitagawa figure,
yeah.
and like she's like half naked, pulling down her pants. And it's just like a common figure now. I
Yeah,
got it at an arcade. I won it from a UFO catcher,
yeah.
and like I just want to. I want to change my. I just want to put that on
On
Twitter,
Twitter, yeah,
but I
they
know
explode.
a lot of people would. I lost a lot of followers actually because I was following Honey, and
Yeah.
then some VTubers that I've never really interacted with. We just had some mutual follows.
Oh God.
Um, I just lost some people. They stopped
Yeah.
following me because I was following her, and like that's fine. We weren't friends, no way. Like that,
Pretty much.
not losing no sleep. I'm good.
Oh no, not the rando. Yeah, I get that. A big thing is like you said, like I said, otaku culture doesn't really change based on like demands because it's
Yeah,
like there's like layers to it. Anime doesn't change too much because it's made for a Japanese audience, but at the same time, it does kind of like mellow itself out a little bit, and people probably
yeah,
don't believe this because there's still so much transgressive elements in anime.
yeah.
But anime is made by a committee, it's made by a corporation, so there's going to be some stuff that gets a little diluted because
Yeah.
they're airing it on TV, they're trying to get people to buy the merch and the DVDs and Blu-rays and the uncensored, but they still have to cater to the primary audience, so they have to like thread a little bit of a needle. Uh, but when it comes
Especially the
to
international
but when
audience.
it comes to like light novels and manga, nearly all gloves are off, especially because like
Right.
webcomic webcomic manga has gotten increasingly popular, especially on Twitter and stuff. And it's usually used to like advertise a fan box. Let's be honest here.
Bruh, like
It's porn ads.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first moved to Japan, so I moved
Yeah,
here from China, so I could already read, right? I already knew kanji,
yeah,
but I wasn't super good at grammar. And one of the ways I learned, because I've never actually taken classes, I just kind of like just live here. And one of the
yeah.
ways I improved my Japanese was by reading like the smuttiest fucking web novels, like just,
I feel
just
like
the
that leads to
absolute
a very
grossest shit.
awkward version of Japanese being spoken.
You would be surprised. You would be surprised. It just
Yeah,
means that I have a lot of random parts of my vocabulary that I will never use, like furuchin, like
yeah,
that, like for a man to be fully naked with his dick out. Why
yeah.
would I? I would never need to say that, but I happen to know it.
I don't know. There's
But
always those
like,
streakers.
also true. Like the term okazu. I don't know if we have a word for that, like
Oh
in English,
yeah,
but
fat material.
like is that like, yeah, I guess
I
so. I guess
think
so.
that came up before when Okayu of Hollow Live made the joke. She made the
Oh,
joke, just straight up made it, and like
okayu wa okazu da.
it was a very big topic for a day. But yeah,
I just
like you said, like there is a lot of Japanese that just you would never use in daily life that's used in arrow
yeah
manga. But yeah,
yeah
like arrow
and
manga, like it tends to be very self-driven. And there's more and more self-driven, self-published works coming out that are like original works, which is
yeah
really good. But that also means that they don't care about the demands of people that it's not paid for, and
oh absolutely
they're not making those for everybody. They're making them for themselves.
exactly. This is one of the things that I think is like
Yeah,
particular. This is I'm really trying to shrink this topic down into something that's kind of
yeah,
digestible. But like a lot of antis in the West
yeah,
are they tend to be fairly left leaning, right, politically or
yeah.
at least socially, right?
So it doesn't
I
really make
myself
entire sense, really, when you think
it's
about it
very weird.
logically.
There's a lot that's just like I'm very far left leaning, and I don't I find
Yeah,
like a lot of that shit to be really weird and unrelatable.
right.
But like let's look specifically at the socialists and the anti-capitalists, right, who are out here with
Yeah,
these
yeah,
like particularly feelings, right?
yeah,
The way that Japanese entertainment media, particularly things like manga and other like consumerist goods like that work,
yeah,
is that you make it for a very specific small audience. So like the ratio of like consumers to payout for the producer
yeah,
is one of the like the smallest in the world. A lot of these creators don't really make a lot of money, but
yeah,
they have found their very, 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 very specific niche of
yeah.
people who will always buy that thing
Yep.
and so they are able to turn out
Yeah, if they make enough money to survive, that's all they give a shit about because they just want to keep
right,
making the shit that they like. And
exactly,
recently
right.
it's improved because we have creators like Pochi Goya, who makes her own merch and it sells pretty well, and she makes her own dojins and they sell really well, and she got a dojin serialized, like an
Oh,
original dojin series got serialized as a
really?
more I wouldn't say family friendly, but less like it's not outright porn, and that got serialized, and she's been working on it ever since. She had to take a break, but that's been pretty amazing to see.
That's
Uh,
so
and then you
cool,
have
dude.
shit. What's the guy's name? I think it's Zogoya. He makes like he's currently working on like 30 different fucking Twitter comics. Uh, and then he
That's
just
so
has a
cool.
fucking fan box full of porn that gets him money. So
I mean, we gotta support artists, right? Recently had the new
Zurakishi is
uh
one. That's a very popular Twitter comic artist that makes a lot of money off of their
fan box and
their
stuff.
fan box while they're making like cutesy little 1 page, 2 page comics. And then there's
Oh yeah, yeah.
you're
There are a couple of
seeing it more and more, and eventually I think it's going to evolve further.
oh, more. Just give me more of
Yeah,
it. Give me more like Dojin anime. Give me more Dojin comics. There,
yeah,
there are a few again like shonen artists who
yeah,
like they draw like shonen characters in daily life, but
yeah,
also in ecchi
yep,
life. And I support some of them. I do like that I can like I basically have the equivalent of Patreon here
yeah.
in Japan where you can go to your
Fan
local
box.
like Family Mart and
Oh,
like support an artist. I support
huh,
several arrow artists. Like they have
yeah.
accounts, and like I can
Oh,
just
that's
type
right, because
their
they have a
account
bunch
in.
of weird financial shit, and then they have like
Ex
solutions to that by just having fucking
exactly,
kiosks everywhere.
exactly.
I
So
forgot
you can
about
just
that till just now. Because
you
we
can
don't ever get to interact with that in the West. There's like
yeah.
usually
Sadly,
no way for us to interact with that system, which really sucks. Because I'm sure
I
more people would
do.
support. Like Aldehyde is another big creator that does like Dojin webcomics. He made that one series where the MC's like a rich noble and he just adopts like a bunch of slave demon girls to raise as his fucking daughters because it's fucking spurred. And then he ends up fucking them anyways because problems.
Oh my
And they get
God,
way too horny.
it sounds like the Bible.
Oh, it's a fucking hilarious like webcomic. But I think that's like my point is like eventually we're gonna get like a really good platform that's like Steam, and we need it so badly. We're gonna get a Steam like
Ah,
platform that allows for creators to upload their works and to be easily browsed and paid for and tipped, and I think that's gonna open the floodgates because you have creators in Korea that are wanting to do this. And in my personal opinion, the long page format really fucking sucks. So
I
like
hate it.
Webtoons
I'm
is
not a
out
big
of
fan.
yeah.
It's just
There's
not a
artists in China, Taiwan, Southeast Asia. They all want to get in on this. You can tell because you're seeing more and more Dojin webcomics that mimic Japanese manga from these places, and we're just like waiting. It feels like a waiting game. Like you could feel like
yeah.
something very big should be happening and it hasn't happened yet.
I feel like, I just feel inspired to go and hustle, man. Like I feel
I
like there's
get
so many
that. Yeah.
different business opportunities I should just get a part
Yeah.
of.
Oh
Like
yeah.
make a platform to support like artists that
Yeah.
is similar to Patreon but doesn't have all the shitty Patreon rules and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like another problem that like is kind of stalling issues is the Western credit card companies and the Western everything else.
Tell me about it. That's why we have to like I don't know. I gotta figure out like we need a way to like just pay for things that are super okay, here's my plan, right? I start an organization where uh basically you buy credits on here and then I take those credits and go to my local Family Mart
Ah,
and then I like pay for your subscription to support an artist,
oh,
right?
that would be cool.
That way, that way, right?
Yeah.
There's no connection between, your MasterCard and your support of this extremely
Yeah.
deviant, degenerate artist in like Kansai.
That's really cool though. That's cool that they can do that. That would be cool to have because, you know, of course, people want to support artists, which is a big thing, you know. Piracy's huge, but it's not like piracy's huge because of hate towards the artists, usually. Piracy is just huge due to, like, wanting to try out stuff, and then it's like, oh, I like this, I'll buy a figure, or just support the artist with raw fucking money.
Which it raw and anonymous. That's all the world wants is just a little bit of like raw and anonymous support.
Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful that I can like go and support a random degenerate artist on the opposite side of the island, pay for that shit in paper money, in
Yeah.
cash. There is no trail between me and them. They don't know me. I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
their real name. I just want to support. I just want them to keep drawing. I just want them to
yeah.
keep drawing. You know, like oh my god, this is gonna get clipped. Somebody's gonna be like, what the fuck
What
are
degenerate
you two?
artist? Answer
Who the
now.
fuck are you supporting right now? Tell me. Give me your hard drive. No, it's not that degenerate. I promise.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like degenerate artists don't get a lot of work anyways.
Right?
Like, I know people were like screaming about Xenoblade and stuff, and then you're like, literally a hentai artist. What are you doing?
Exactly,
Of
right?
course, the designs are going to be horny. It's a hentai artist who's hooked a bunch of other hentai artists into the fold.
Which, come on, more, I mean, less prudery,
Yeah.
more celebration of
Mm-hmm.
hentai stuff.
For
And
sure, for
dear
sure.
aunties, if you happen to be watching this, it is not so that people can walk around just constantly jerking it. Erotic
Yeah,
art
it's like a
is
weird
cool for its
entertainment
own sake.
enjoyment that doesn't
It is.
exactly. It's not like arousal exactly. I don't know how
It's
to
just
explain it.
entertaining.
Yeah.
It's just fucking entertaining.
It's
You're
like you can
right. You're
enjoy
right.
something without being like that.
It's
Unfortunately,
amen.
like sometimes it does attract a bad crowd. And that's something else I wanted to talk about. Like you mentioned earlier about idol culture, you know,
Hmm.
and how like they have that thing where the idol can't date, they can't uh do anything because like they have a devotion to the fans, and this is like a unspoken rule, so it's assumed and it's enforced, which is really sucks. You know, like at the end of the day, the idol is playing a character up on the stage, and the
Yeah,
actual person behind that character is still a human being. Uh,
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
it's like a bad mixture between idol like otaku culture and idol culture, like a 2D otaku culture, I guess I should specify, because like a very thing about otaku sexuality is an understanding that it is one sided. It has to be one sided because
Yeah.
the otaku knows that their
The
waifu
object
isn't
of their
real.
affection.
Your
Yeah.
waifu is not real. It'll never be real.
Mm.
You will never
And
touch your waifu. Why even live? Uh,
it,
but like
and it is
The
because
Miku
she is
guy
not
knows
real
that Miku
that,
isn't real, but
yeah.
he finds I don't know, fulfillment, some type of sense of fulfillment and gratitude and joy in expressing your love. There's a joy, just it's a very pure feeling when you think about it in some ways,
We need a
because
whole stream dedicated to this topic. I
there's
think.
yeah, that was supposed to be this stream, I think. We went off the rails,
Uh,
but
yeah.
we had we had that guy, and it was very confusing for some people. Oh, why is this guy doing this? Well, as it turns out, he had like a trauma. Like
Yeah.
he had experienced trauma from the women in his life, so his solution was to just dedicate himself to Miku, which is okay. He's happy, so there's no problem, right? Well, apparently there was a problem because you know, uh, he consented. Miku by default consents because she's a character, but the other people in the audience wasn't as happy. But he has Miku merch. He quote unquote married Miku. Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
and
they're
it's
married,
just,
married now.
but like it's his way of showing affection and devotion to Miku. He knows that she will never return it, but this kind of folds in toxically sometimes in idol culture and VTuber culture, and it can go both ways in idol culture. But in VTuber culture, it can go really both ways. Uh, like idol culture, naturally, the idols will be like, will kind of say things that they probably shouldn't say, because it does lead to an acceptance of this type of exchange, where the idols are presumed to remain pure and devoted to their fans, which they realistically don't do usually because they end up getting in trouble. And sometimes they don't want to do this, but it is what it is. And then in VTuber culture, you have very big extremes of this, which are very difficult to explain and parse, because I'm sure you heard about the incident. We've all probably heard about the incident earlier this year of Uraha Rushia.
Oh,
that incident.
That's so sad.
It's a
very avoidable. Avoidable.
It's ultimately a very complex and tricky incident because she herself plays into this dynamic. It wasn't it wasn't a one-way street because of this misunderstanding on both sides, that she's ultimately a human, she has friends, but she also kind of forgets that, because the first thing she did whenever she got in quote-unquote in trouble because she had a male friend is she immediately tried to turn back and reaffirm her dedication to her fans, because she herself also buys into this. She buys into this dynamic undoubtedly, and you can see this.
You think she really believes it?
I think she really believes it, because that's her. She plays a very extreme version of the girlfriend experience for her fans. And the first thing she did,
people were going to be upset.
Well, instead of listening to her managers, instead of listening to the HoloLive staff, she went onto her secondary personal account and she immediately tried to do interviews with drama VTubers to sort of clear up the mistake and desperately try to prove her dedication to her fans, that it wasn't broken. And ultimately, she got in trouble for that, and then she got in a lot of trouble because it turns out that she is really insane, and she was just leaking all kinds of gossip and shit that she shouldn't have been.
I thought she felt like that would absolve her. I think that she felt.
Well, ultimately, she has problems. She has problems where she was constantly had trouble feeling like her fellow members were genuine. Like she always felt worried that they actually hated her. It was that type of
that's just insecurity.
It was
that's a
whole
thing.
And she reacted to that insecurity very badly, and she would constantly gossip about it, her own interpretations of every little thing. And whenever it was actually investigated, she got in a lot of trouble.
I think some people get into this industry because they have some areas in their own real lives that they are dissatisfied with, and they feel like they can become this other new person. But you don't become your VTuber, right?
You would think so, but another thing that reinforces my general belief that she does absolutely buy into it, and that she does have that sort of clingy attachment the same way that her fans do, is what Coral said, is that a more recent VTuber model that she's debuted in her now main personal account is pretty much the same artist as Rushia. She pretty much got a clone. Just to,
I did not know that.
She is very much stuck on it.
Yikes.
She debuted as another corporate VTuber for VShoujo, but she's pretty much abandoned that to go back to being quote-unquote Rushia. So
do you, man?
It's a very tricky topic to properly communicate, because when that incident first occurred, you had a lot of Westerners, and especially Western VTubers, who were relatively clueless about idol culture and stuff, and about the specific incident. They were just like, oh, well, Rushia should be able to do whatever she wants, and she shouldn't have to restrain herself from having male friends and stuff. But at the same time, she was going around being like, oh shit, I fucked up big time because of a misunderstanding, because I didn't clear this up, and it's because she herself bought into it. So it's very tricky.
if you're
Eh,
looking for validation, through parasocial relationships,
Yeah,
you're going to forever, you know, be miserable. Like you're never going to actually be able
somewhat.
to
Yeah,
find anything through that.
I guess
Uh,
it's like a difficult thing where she has issues and it brings her
yeah.
comfort. Sometimes you'll have issues no matter what. She seems to at least be in a slightly better place now, but ultimately,
Uh,
all it takes is for something like that to happen again, and
and it will. Oh, and it will.
yeah. I think
100%. I
ultimately
don't
you
know
do
if
have
it's
to. I think a big problem is that you do have to set like boundaries very vocally and firmly because of a very bad habit of certain circles of otaku to make assumptions that aren't healthy.
real
Uh,
though.
but of course, there are people who play into those assumptions and agree with them, even as I've just pointed out and laid out, like Rushia.
Mm.
Like you can tell by her actions and behaviors that there is a part of her that at least buys into it, and she seems to get a lot of like comfort from her own fandom for one reason or another.
I'm
But
sure
it
real
is
life is
unhealthy to a
tough.
degree,
Yeah.
but she's unhealthy to begin with, so it's difficult to really untangle.
Yeah, but speaking of a better place,
Yeah.
it is 2 in the morning, and I think a better place would be my bed. So I'm
So yeah, we need to like wrap this up then, yeah.
yeah,
But I think
yeah,
like in terms of change, it's difficult because everybody wants something different. But at the end of the day, the only people who will make change, and it'll only be semi change, is the people who actually make stuff. Like if you're complaining on Twitter about how something isn't what you want, and you're not making anything, and you're not supporting anything, guess what? It's not going to change because it's not going to change to begin with. It's not going to change no matter what. But you're also going to be miserable because the thing you actually want will never happen.
yeah, exactly. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, like any sort of course, this community is going to be sort of given to those kinds of issues, partially just because of the people that it attracts,
Yeah.
partially because of just like who has the time to stream. It's people who are
Yeah.
in very particular parts of their lives, right?
Yeah. Pretty much.
And all we can do is I think we need to have like um a strong mental health, like sort of like mental health
Yeah.
resources for
Yeah.
our community. It is stressful, and a lot of people are just going through shit, and we just assume, oh, you should just have your shit together. You're a grown up. You're an adult. You should be able to get. You should. That's not always the case, right? People
Yeah.
need help, and we should be able to offer that to one another. So, um,
Yeah.
that's another
Very
just
true.
thing that we should kind of keep in mind
Better
as this
resources is
community
always
continues
good,
to
and
develop.
I think the most important part of better resources isn't like having things that the people who need it reach out, but instead resources that they encounter. Uh,
Exactly.
that's why I really like that. I think it's like there's like a mental health gamer. I can't gamer mental health
Oh
something.
yeah, yeah. I did
That guy does a lot of
the
really
guy,
good
that guy.
videos on topics that are way more helpful than people who are just like, just come and talk to me. It
Right.
doesn't happen,
It should be a part of
unfortunately.
the like
Yeah,
health should be a part of the community itself, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. Sustainability really important, and that includes mental health, like human sustainability. Uh, but yeah, ultimately, like things only change when people like bring change themselves, and that's definitely going to be like you have to learn how to like actually bring change in a healthy way and not in a toxic way. Because like Western creators can preach and bitch all they want, but if they don't like, but if they do that, then people are just going to hate their work out the gate. Because like that's a big issue with Western fandom is they have a very toxic expectation of anything that they encounter that has certain topics to it, even if it's not actually that bad. Uh, like they look for problems. Like
uh,
homosexuality is a very common topic, and because of like activist groups that have very poorly explained themselves and advocated for more choices for them, more works, they've ended up kind of souring the pool a little bit. And of course, like some of the reactions are over the top because of like other reasons, but of course, like even I am kind of like a little wary whenever I see certain things and I'm like, is this just gonna turn into like a preach fest? Like feminism does not have a good track record in the community simply because a lot of our media has been misrepresented by mainstream outlets that use the label incorrectly, usually. You know,
Oh, I mean that is
I think that's like a
I'm
really
trying to
big topic too.
yeah, I'm making I'm incorporating that into one of my next video essays
Yeah,
because I mean, I don't want to get too deep into that currently, but it is a very huge topic
yeah,
that basically certain communities
yeah,
that I do think have good intentions, right?
yeah.
Um, due to a number of paradigmatic reasons,
Hmm.
have awful exexecution, and
Oh
that awful
yeah,
execution leads to what is now kind of seen as like this rift between old school sort of otaku
yeah.
fandom and any woman, any minority, any sexual minority,
Which
etc.
when you think
And like,
about it is ironic because there's no problem actually with women or sexual minorities. And whenever they import Japanese media made by those people, about those people, targeting those people, they embrace it without a problem. You know,
mm,
like you don't see issues like that because like a lot of mangaka are women and they're
yeah, oh
very
yeah.
widely celebrated. But you never know that if you
Mm.
didn't like pay attention to otaku spaces. And part of it is that you don't really see feminists celebrating it because these same works that these women are making are very transgressive.
And that, my friends, is a story for another day.
Yeah, true. True, true, true.
uh, I'm gonna go to bed,
All
but
right. Yeah, yeah.
let's do this again sometime
Yeah,
in the
we'll
not
have
too
to
distant
do
future.
a part 2 or a part 3.
Yeah, 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 fam. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
It was
I
a
gotta
good
make some
talk
clips
though.
first, though.
A good
Yeah,
first start.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, do you have anything you want to say in closing?
Uh, uh, w- uh, not
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 really.
really. Uh, what, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sleepy.
Yeah.
What do you? Let us know. If what you want us to talk about next time that we
I
didn't
think
touch
the
on enough of
I think it
today.
would be cool to talk about how otaku culture from we've talked a lot about Japan and we've talked
Hmm.
some about how it's interacted with the West, but like I guess the big thing with the West is filling in the gaps. I'd love to talk about that next.
What do you
Filling in the
mean?
gaps and repairing bridges.
I'm intrigued. I'm not really sure where you're going with this. All right, but okay.
All
All
right,
right,
yeah.
let's see. Let's talk about it.
Like I guess the big thing to talk about is like repairing like the like getting better about showing positive feminism in otaku spaces because at the end of the day
Oh,
and also that's more the repairing side and then when it comes to the filling in the gaps part it would be more about creating works and having places to create those works and share the works that are more substantial and can be grown off.
oh,
I think
I
that's
see what you
something
mean.
that we're
Things
not
which are missing from the
seeing.
community
Yeah,
and how we can provide those
and
things.
issues that those will face because naturally like the same issues that face Japanese media now will be even worse whenever we get to a place where we're finally seeing like Western otaku media creation and arts creation. We'll probably see
Thousand
more of that.
percent,
Yeah,
1000%.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, that would be cool to talk about next time.
All right, let me put that on the books. Closing the gaps
Yeah.
in the community.
Like
Um,
I think we've already like started with a patchwork of it with like
yeah,
VTubers because
yeah,
VTubers have
exactly.
ended up being adopted by the West,
Yeah,
and it's not
exactly.
going back in the bottle. We have fan artists, we have VTubers, we have indie games, but it hasn't entirely like shaped up all the way.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot more to do. People think that it's oversaturated, that it's dying, and I think
Yeah,
it's just going through a phase because
yeah.
there's so much more growth that is possible.
Infinite growth,
So
infinite
much more.
growth. Yeah,
So much more. So, I mean, we just gotta make
yeah,
it happen. Gotta make it happen.
absolutely,
All right,
absolutely.
y'all. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
We'll catch y'all next time.
Be sure
You know,
to be
can we
sure to
just
check out Zenon's YouTube channel. She has a
Yes,
YouTube channel.
please.
I have it in the
Yes,
title.
please.
She has a Twitter that I have linked on Twitter, where she has all her links and she posts. And hopefully she gives us some of those good travel vlogs and stuff and talking more about Japanese culture. She lives in Japan, so she has access to that I don't really. But yeah, she's really cool. She got me into doing this. I was a bit hesitant to do it, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
It's something we'll have to
Conversations are
try to
always
do
good.
like once a month, maybe.
Yeah, dude, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. We can get like conversations from the community, and we could also
Yeah.
do like interactive stuff, like games and shit.
Oh, hell
I'm all
yeah.
about. I
Hell
really
yeah.
want to do some actual like games. I have all kinds of shit in mind, so
Yeah.
uh, let's turn it up. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It'd be cool to
All
talk
right.
about specific pieces of media eventually, too, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. In that case,
Yeah.
uh, give we gotta start making a list.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's start making a list, and then we can let people vote on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll do that some other time, because you have to get to bed, right?
Yes, exactly. I do need to get to bed. But over the course of the next couple of days, we'll just get some stuff together, put it on your Twitter, let people vote, and then we
All
can
right.
just kind of
Yeah.
prepare that.
I'll try to work on that, too, with you. But yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully you have a good week. I know you said you're going to be doing a lot of
Yeah.
traveling,
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
so I hope you have a good trip, good vacation.
Yeah.
Take lots of videos and pictures, and then you got content. That's content, baby.
That's content, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Catch y'all later.
All right. Peace.
Bye bye.
Bye. That was fun. That was really fun. I'm glad we got to talk about a lot of stuff to make people angry. I'm sure that'll make a lot of people angry. But yeah, a big reason that I wanted to do this at first, I should probably hide this. She's gone now. We'll be doing that again. I don't want to do it too often because discourse. I don't want to get discourse brained on Twitch too much, but it is fun to talk about it occasionally. What actually originally spurred this was just me complaining a lot on Twitter about various things about how I think anime cons need to go back to being otaku anime cons and not be about literally every other fandom, because we have other cons for those already. And it's not anime cons' duty or place to fill in gaps for other communities just because we're the popular one. And then, of course, like vtubing, I talk about that a lot, and we talked about that off stream, where one VTuber was facing a lot of like call outs and canceling because she changed to a lolly model and was doing the finger thing with her hands, and people were upset about that. But it's mostly because they refuse to listen about the fact that she's a character and we view her as the character and like not some type of representation of life. She's just a character. But I'm probably gonna end stream soon too. So I hope everybody actually enjoyed this. I'm gonna have to find somebody to raid, real quick. But yeah, that was a fun time. I'm gonna probably be streaming tomorrow. What is today? Wednesday? Usually on Thursdays I stream. Friday I have physical therapy, actually, for the first time. But I'm gonna stream tomorrow, probably playing a game, probably Fortnite. I was gonna do a drawing stream, but that never happened this week, so it'll probably have to happen next week. Toonie just started streaming, so I'm gonna raid Toonie. And she's pretty cool. Yeah, we shouldn't have to make our own cons because we already have our own cons. We already have them. They already exist. They're literally called anime cons. So that's kind of the annoying part. Yeah, because they're called they're otaku con, anime cons. Make new ones. We pretty much have to at this point. Which is not like we don't already have new cons constantly popping up every year, but I definitely think there needs to be like some type of focused push for straight up We need to get back to it, and it needs to be, like, in multiple places. Hopefully we see that eventually. Like, we need cons. Our community just needs, like, a revamp. A reboot, almost. That isn't a reboot. Like, we could do so much more. And that's what I want to see. And that's why I like talking about it, because maybe it'll get more people to do it. But, I'm going to rate Toonie. She's pretty cool. She just started streaming. But, it's been a good one. Tomorrow, Fortnite probably. Or Craftopia. I've really enjoyed Craftopia. Anyways, hope y'all have a good day. I will see y'all tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, then next week. Love y'all. Peace. Bye.